Dave Quisenberry's house across the street has power. It's so spotty. It's just like this or that building, you know.
When I was driving back from Hynum's in the dark, I noticed that 2 houses down the hill from me were still out. And in the midst of it all, my next door neighbor was on and we were out. So it's here and there and everywhere.
Mm-hmm. So it's a crazy windstorm.
Did you see the huge tree that came down on Maple in front of the Carr's house?
Yes.
Enormous tree.
Yep.
And then a big one fell on, I think what used to be Sharon Courier's house on Bell.
Oh,
A big pine snapped and is like laying in the house. It didn't crush the house, luckily, but it's laying on it.
I think I lived in that house.
I lived in every house in the village. Oh my.
Like I'm having deja vu.
Luckily, I didn't put that stuff in the minutes, Steve.
Yeah, we are live, Steve. We are live.
Is Bill
All
here?
right. It
Yeah.
is 8:30 and we are streaming and recording. So Steve, you can start the meeting.
All right, call the meeting to order. First order of business would be the minutes from, when was that? The 3rd, was it, or 5th?
Yep.
Election day,
November 3rd.
3rd. Comments on those minutes? I move to approve as presented.
Second?
Motion by King, second by Naylor to approve the minutes from November 3rd. Naylor,
Yes.
King,
Yes.
is Childs here?
Yes,
Okay, thank you, Bill.
thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Okay, moving on. 158 South Main Street. You have a historic significance report. This
Yes,
is
we
a front porch addition. They
Right,
want to put a front porch on the front of their house.
okay, prospectus evaluation, Hilton 59, over 50 years old. Does not fit the criteria according to prospectus for historically significant structure. And therefore, changes would not affect its statute in that regard, or would, and it's been judged by prospectus that the changes offered would not affect approximate historically significant structures in that area. Let's see, they're according to the proposed changes would not have an effect, and as Harry said, primarily a front porch. I move to approve the receiving of the report from prospectus.
Second?
Motion by King, seconded by Naylor to accept the HSR from prospectus. Childs,
Yes,
King,
Yes,
Naylor,
Yes.
okay. If you could make the presentation of the project that you have and state your name and relationship.
so before you get started here, let me give you a little zoning history here.
Sure. Yep.
This is going to be going to the Board of Zoning Appeals this month for the front yard encroachment of the front porch. So you have to treat this as a preliminary, then I'll have to swing back for a final once they go through the BZA process.
Mhm. Mhm.
And with that, I'll turn it over to Becky Pantuso.
Yep, we'll actually, I think, be technically on next month's BZA meeting. Not that it makes a big difference, but we're just, I think we went ahead. We're at 441 East Washington.
Yeah, we're reviewing the wrong project.
That's my fault.
you
No
go.
worries. There you go, right there. That's the existing, just down below, and we're trying to make kind of the smallest front porch we can that can still get 2 seats and not look too abbreviated on that front, and adding a couple of dormers just for, we need like a split screen or something. Yeah. Adding a couple dormers up above just for visual appeal. There's a lot of heavy FIPON accessories on the windows now. I'm proposing to take those off. Ideally, in the homeowners perfect world, we would just have 2 windows here on the right side. See where I ganged 3? Because he already has 2 windows, he'd like to just reuse those. I thought the pair may be less welcomed from the board because there's no pair windows on the house now. And proposing adding another one, that's their main living space there behind it. But you know, we're here on a preliminary level, so if you have any feedback as to which you prefer, we're happy to hear that.
Mhm. It does seem like a lot of glass.
Yeah, the triple, I'm not sure how well that works with that. You're kind of going after colonial revival. And then usually we're like, take the shutters off. And now I'm like, the shutters kind of finished the facade of the house. So if you kept the 2 window, but you're trying to get them a bigger picture window? Is that-
The front door right now goes right into the stairs. You can almost see it in that picture.
Uh-huh.
So we're trying to move that to the right so that you're not falling into the stairs there. And,
Oh, I see.
and it just, I would love to put a window on the left. In fact, I could show you a bunch of exploratory studies where we move that door to the right and then put like a little, kind of 25 or 29 small
Mhm.
accessory window to the left just to help fill the void that window on the left has. And then just kind of trying to balance it on the right. The shutters are too small for the windows.
Mhm.
I would like them to be.
But a shutter would be appropriate for this house, in my
Yeah.
opinion. The other thing I wanted to ask you about is the standing seam, the metal.
Mhm.
I've seen that a lot. And can you talk to me about that a little bit? I think I would rather see the asphalt shingle continued into the porch roof. But tell me what you're thinking about.
The intentional move, so not to get too involved in their personal matters, but Gary's older, his wife Sarah has Alzheimer's, so they really just want to sit on this front porch and like look out at the traffic go by.
Mhm.
And that noise that the roof makes is an appealing
Oh, on the metal?
yeah, you know how it like ting 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 kind of, they want that. So
Okay.
on this it wasn't just an aesthetic thing, it's like a functional.
I would never have guessed that answer. Okay.
Yeah,
Oh, I've heard that before and I understand that.
Mhm.
I don't know what that has to do with architecture in this house for the next 50 years, though.
yeah, well, if you guys say
It
it,
has to be a minor
I'm just-
consideration.
I'm just giving you the rationale.
I understand.
Yeah.
Yeah, the metal roofs are being overused because they're the current thing. And it really doesn't fit on this house. Phil's not here, so we can certainly keep the shutters today.
That's hilarious. Yeah, well, I have vacillating opinions on the metal roof. Certainly, I think sometimes they get too big and too clunky. I think when the scale of the porch shrinks, so does the need for the metal roof. You can't have these big heavy things on this small porch. But in this case, to me, because we're breaking that plane of the roof, I'm almost more comfortable with it being metal because it's different, right? But yeah, there's certainly a lot of them.
Harry, can you go back to the drawing with the triple window? Yeah.
I'm actually fond of shutters myself. I probably prefer them, but so that's a pretty easy change.
Bill, do you have any comments?
It's just the double. Like I don't know why I like having two windows in there.
It's the symmetry. It's the colonial revival, and I'm feeling like it's waiting on one side of the house.
Yeah, it looks like an addition.
I agree. I think this needs to be restudied. I think I like the two windows better than these three windows. The composition's way to the right. I think this porch here really needs to be restudied. The distance between these columns is way too far for this beam to span that distance. It looks out of proportion. I think you need to study this eave for sure. What happens when this crown mold comes down, this, what is called a corona, should go all the way across. And then at the bottom of the crown, which most people call a cove, is called a fillet, which means you split the fillet, which runs across here. And this proportion wise needs to be, I think, pulled in. The other thing is these dormers are, I wouldn't put muttons in here because the rest of the house doesn't have muttons. I wouldn't put casements up here. If you can get rid of the muttons, I'd put double hungs up here so it stays with the language of the house.
Yeah.
And then I would figure out, you either try to line dormers up with windows or you take the composition of the roof and equally space them. And I'd almost see, is it possible to get a third in here? So it's always nice to do things in threes because there's a lot of distance between here and here. And these kind of look like they're lost in a way, just hanging there. Is this a wood deck?
Well, go back to the existing, Bill, because you're bringing up some good challenges in that. And I'm trying to, I don't know if I'm going to be able to share a screen here, but if you go back to the original, that like the door and stuff are not, it's not all centered. So we're trying to center that on the roof. This window on the left is a fixed window. We're not moving it.
Then what you want to try to do then is try to center the dormers on the roof is another way to do it to see how they line up. But the other thing is this a wood deck or is this stone?
Great question. Still waiting on pricing. But
Yeah, I would never ever put a wood deck on the front of a house. I'd always make these stone for sure, no matter, or even concrete at the least, and then brick. I'd never put a wood deck, especially this low to the ground, on the front of a house. The other thing is I'd look at, it really helped if there was some side lights on here, because the challenge is going to be if you pull this in to make this look proportionally correct, this is going to get really small, then this roof's going to end up being a super low pitch, and then you're not going to be able to get the asphalt shingles on it. So I think you need to really study this whole composition quite a bit. The other thing I would say is I would never line this up, because what happens when you look at the side elevation, how does this rake die into here? It's always good to pull this in about a foot so that everything dies nicely. If not, you have a column that's flush with the corners. And the other thing is I'd pull this porch out at least a couple feet, this pediment, because what happens when the gutter dies into here, it just dies flush with the front of this, and this column, there's got to be more of a reveal here. You either just do, I guess one thing I would look at studying is just do a shed roof across here and forget the pediment, because when you just do this tiny little reveal, it looks like you just missed, and the gutter might even stick out farther than the pediment. So I think you really need to go back and re-study this whole thing pretty good.
you, am I able to share screen or?
Sure. That would be Christie. She would have to. take me off the screen share. I'll stop screen sharing for a second, Christie. Christie? Christie, you there?
She's
Sorry.
coming.
Sorry, I had something else to attend to. I will initiate. Screen share is available. Is that what you were asking for?
Yeah, I stopped my screen share. Rebecca would like to screen share.
Yeah, all panelists have the ability to screen share, so she should have that availability.
Oh, I just need to, I'm sorry. I thought I would have to get permission. Sorry about that.
No, you got it. Thank you. Thanks for that.
Bill, this was one, thing that I proposed in sort of allowing that roof to kind of roll off and curve with the shingles, but they really do want that metal roof. So I don't know if that's more appealing to you. We throw the shutters back on. This looked too abbreviated. I mean, we're trying to balance the fact that we're going to be asking for a variance. So the farther I pull this out, the more variance I ask, but this looked kind of ridiculous to me as a solution. Do you agree or disagree?
Yeah,
Bill?
I think I would do some more studies on this whole front composition personally.
Mm-hmm. So I'm hearing you, and Bill, you're an advocate for the shutters too. Did I-
Well, I guess to start with, I mean, I'm always an advocate of shutters being the right proportion. Those look like 15-inch standard shutters. So I guess to start with, maybe start with shutters, but I guess you have to kind of see how it plays out with the rest of the composition of the dormer,
Right.
the porch and everything. I don't know. I think I'd keep using the bum wad and sketching and trying to come up with different concepts and ideas personally.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm trying to look at McAllister because I think it feels like it's trying to be a cape and trying to look at different configurations. But I agree, if you could look at some of the items that we've suggested today.
Right.
Are the upper windows muttoned or not?
No, they're not. There's just I'm sorry, there's a timing, issue of we have to submit this a month in advance. They really wanted it this fall. It obviously, it's a front porch. It's tricky, but we were trying to move things along. So from a BZA standpoint, what you're looking at, what Harry's got is, I guess, indicative of where we're headed. We used to, when we applied for a BZA or a variance, only give the site information, like this is what we're asking for. And now we're getting into architecture, and it's just a matter of, do we draw the whole thing, study it, and do it its completion before we even find out that we may or may not be able to have a variance.
Are you coming before them before you will see us next?
Yeah. So this is just really kind of an early gesture as to what could be on this house. We obviously, it's a small project. We don't have endless time or budget or whatever to spend on it. So we try not to draw the whole thing kind of perfectly to its full completion before we even find out if, heck, we might not be able to get this variance.
I asked that question because the comments I've heard, we're tinkering with it, that's for sure. None of these things, at least I'm speaking only for myself now, and I welcome other comments, but the project looks like a good project for that house in that tight situation. In other words, I'm trying to give you the ARB nod for your presentation to them. We haven't approved anything, but we like, we think it's a good project. I want other people to fill in here because I'm speaking only for myself without emotion. But
I agree. I think a porch is a good addition for this house. You're keeping it a small scale. You're just getting seating on the front of that. And I think there are just some details that you need to work out along the way. And if they're just trying to figure out, this is a variance into the intrusion into the yard, right?
Right.
Correct.
They're
20 feet
the
or
front of
porch.
the front of their house is the setback line. So I only have 48 square feet and I can't put 2 chairs and, a properly scaled porch on 48 square.
Porches are really a character defining feature of the village. So
Yeah.
I support an appropriately scaled porch addition to a house.
no,
I have a
tight
comment.
street.
I have a comment. Wendy had touched on McAllister's book, and if you look at Cape Cod, which this lends itself to a Cape Cod, I guess my question is, does this Massey form really suggest or warrant a porch on it? Most Cape Cods and things has the single door, has the windows and just missing the dormers. Does it make sense to try to put a porch on the side, or don't even put a porch? Because are you forcing the porch on a Cape if you look at McAllister's book?
Yeah, no, it's true that Greek revivals, capes, there's a lot of architectural vernacular that a porch isn't common, but the reality is we live in Northeast Ohio and we, shelter ourselves from what's happening right now. And,
Could they put a
and
porch
sit on a porch. What's that?
Could they put the porch on the side of the house?
There is no side. Look at the garage. I mean, it looks.
Okay.
Yeah,
The garage looks ridiculous, but I can't do anything about it. It's,
Yeah, I personally think you need to really study it because I'm not convinced that really warrants a porch. That's just my opinion. I know the other board members have opinion, but to me, it seems like we're forcing a porch on it. That's just my opinion.
if your house didn't have a front porch, you'd just leave it that way.
Yes, if it's that type of vernacular and that's the correct architecture, I would. Because again, Chagrin Falls is a fairly historic town. And you're trying to keep whatever each architectural style is, you try to keep it like that and not try to muddle it up. And again, that's just my opinion. These guys, they may be totally fine with it.
Yeah, in reality, this house is probably a manufactured home in the 1950s. There's one right behind me that's very similar that faces Maycourt. That's probably what this house was. They just brought it in on a truck and put it together. And, you're just trying to gussy it up.
That's exactly right. I
understand those comments and, but we're dealing with a manufactured home from the 50s.
And there's a social aspect to this. The nature of the street is a lot of conversation among neighbors or strangers walking down the street. It's on the main walking path, and there's a social aspect to a front porch on this part of South Main Street, I think. So we have the non-architectural comments about the metal roof for audio aesthetics, and that a front porch would aid in their use of community. The straight architectural use is Bill's right on the money. It's a little Cape Cod and doesn't have a front porch. At this point, I think we should revise and resubmit because we've had a number of ideas. And I think I certainly would like to see 2 windows, if at all possible.
Sure, sure.
So is that a motion? Do you want a
That
second?
was a motion. I moved to revise and resubmit, given the litany of conversation that we've had here this morning. And that overall, Architecture Review Board is a positive feel for it as far as going before B&Z for the variance.
And just so I know, or am very clear on, we'll go to BZA, you know, December 1st for the 24th or something meeting. When you say revise and resubmit, we have to resubmit anyhow for the final. But are we adding any meetings in there, or when proper time to
Are
resubmit?
we adding what?
Do I need to come 2 more times to ARB, or just 1 more time for the final, assuming you like what we present?
That would be your choice, Becky. You know, because how deep into the weeds you want to get with design drawings. Because you're going to be in front of BZA before you come back to ABR.
I think she's saying, do I need a preliminary and then a final meeting?
That's what I'm saying. She's going to be after the fact with BZA, so that would be her decision if she wants to come back for a final. Actually, it's up to you guys too. But,
So if you come with finals next time, we like it, you're in there.
right.
Right. If you don't like it, then I'm at risk of spending too much time,
Correct.
you know, drawing something that isn't received. Okay, that I just want to know what my options are and make sure that I don't miss a step or miss a meeting when you say revise and resubmit. You know, that
Size of the project and the familiarity with you, if we point to one of the 2 options you give us and we like it, that could be a final.
yeah. Well, you'll like what we present when we have a little bit more time to.
Very good, I'm sure. Did I hear a second?
You've
Yeah,
heard
we
a
have a
second.
second.
Okay.
So we have a motion by King, seconded by Naylor to revise and resubmit. Naylor,
Yes.
King,
Yes.
Childs? Childs?
He's gone.
He abstains. I
He
think the motion
abstains.
carries.
Okay. All right, we'll see you in a couple weeks there, Becky.
Back.
Or actually a couple
Yeah,
minutes.
I'll see you at the end of the meeting. I won't,
Right.
won't try to pull my other project forward, though. I'll step out and come back in when you're ready.
Very good. Thank you.
Good, thank you.
Thanks, guys.
441 East Washington,
Little
HSR on file.
little history here, Steve. This too also requires action of Board of Zoning Appeals. It is a non-conforming lot and they have a side yard encroachment. They are scheduled for Board of Zoning Appeals next week. And this is also a preliminary. As I mentioned to you in my email to you, you're also going to see a detached garage in the back. That's going to be treated under a separate application because they're going to, I think they're requesting to demolish the detached garage and build another one, but that's not part of the submission. So with that, I'll turn it over to you folks.
Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we can.
Hi, everybody. I'm Matt Ross from Matt Ross Architects. And I also have on the call with us Scott and Chris Wells and Kevin Shannon.
Good morning.
Morning.
So we, if you could go to sheet C.2 to show the existing photos, please.
Yep.
Okay. So what we're looking at, we have, let me get there myself. You can see the facade and the neighbors to the east, the neighbors to the west. It's a pretty prominent area in the Falls area. We are proposing.
Seeing any drawings.
Harry, are you pulling up the drawings?
I'm looking at pictures right now.
Okay, well, we don't if you could put them on screen share, we don't have, excuse me for interrupting, by the way, we can't see them from our end yet.
I did a screen share. What happened?
Well, I don't know, but maybe you could stop and start again. How's that for official technology advice?
It's not good.
Turn it off,
Fired.
turn it back on again. Right.
Matt, sorry for the interruption.
Oh,
Thank you
that's
for being
okay.
Patient.
Technology at its best.
While we're searching for the illustrations, I would refer back to the prospectus review of this previously in 17. Their conclusions are it is historically significant and that the changes proposed would not have an adverse effect to the structure or those in the proximity.
For
I don't
that,
think
for a.
Receive it again,
different
but
design,
we
right?
should address it. Go ahead.
That's for a different design though, right, Steve?
No, I think, well, Harry, is that?
Yeah, hold on. I got a technical problem going on.
Yeah, I think that HSR was on file.
It's just,
Right.
look
Yeah,
at-
but George's point is they were getting conclusions on the project. Am I commenting on the wrong project?
What's the
Is this
date
the
on that
same
one?
design from 1970, from
where I was at.
1970, from 2017?
Okay, so that's open.
Is it the same project again or a different project?
Matt,
This is a separate project,
You're
but
on.
right.
Okay.
there was a historical review that was done, I was told. My understanding is that there would still be a review based
You're
on
right.
what we're proposing.
What we can do is, it's been judged by prospectus to be historically significant.
Because I think.
right,
And their comments relating to the project are irrelevant because it's a different project.
Okay,
We can judge your new project.
sure.
Please
And
proceed.
just, what our intentions are to, maintain the same style and character
Very good.
with our work. So hopefully we'll fall within that.
Okay. We have pictures?
we're trying.
I
The
can
other
give
thing
you,
we can do is have Matt.
Matt, share a screen. Oh, Harry, there you
Harry's got
go.
it now.
There we
okay.
go.
Okay.
Okay, so we're looking at the very top photos. The middle photo is our project site. We will not be doing anything to that other than replacing the entire project, replacing all the windows in kind with the same style, same mutton pattern, same trim, but to an insulated, more heat efficient, energy efficient window. Our proposal, our project will be on the north facade down below where it says north facade. We're proposing to add an addition to the rear of the project, the site. So we'll be we'll be demolishing that single story addition, and we will be adding 14-foot addition towards the rear. So part of going in front of BZA is that we're 9.3 inches over the 5-foot yard setback. Currently, the existing house is, it's a non-conforming lot. We want to keep the same roof height and sidewall, exterior walls to the east and west. So
Setback is a side or a back setback problem?
that's a side yard setback.
Mhm.
So if you go to sheet AD.1, which is the next thing, that's our demolition sheet. And you can see what we're proposing on the first floor, the second floor, and then the existing garage, detached garage in the rear. That is also part of the demolition we're proposing for this project. There'll be a phase 2 part of the project, which we're not up for now proposing, but that's when the garage will be presented to you. But for the sake of context, we began a preliminary porch addition on the rear facade. So if you can go to the next sheet, please. You can see in plan that 14 feet that we're adding to the north facade, and then to that, the porch addition as well. And the porch addition, so I'm sorry, you can scroll down. It's towards the bottom of the page, right there. Okay, so if you go to the next sheet, A.6.1, towards the very bottom, you can see the north elevation. So again, I just want to reiterate that porch is just for the context. So for this part, we'll just have the flat facade with the new windows. And that really is the extent of the exterior renovation in addition, with the exception, I'm sorry, on the side, we want to add a canopy over the side entrance as well. So our intentions are to match the Craftsman style roofing, windows, shingles, rafter tails, gutters, all across the board. We're not looking to change the aesthetic.
What's
All
the
new roof.
existing square foot? Excuse me, Steve, go ahead.
It's an all new roof.
Not an all new roof, just a roof on the existing. I mean, I'm sorry, on the new part of the house.
That skylight's already there.
No, that I apologize. The skylights will be adding as well. So the darkened area on the west elevation, that represents the new roofing and skylights on the second floor.
Well, I think the roof will look exactly like the drawing here in terms of color, and even if you had the same material, the weathering, and if you're messing with the front roof to put a skylight in, why don't you just re-roof the whole thing?
Well, going to that point, and this is my problem. I really have with these rear extensions, it just kind of extrude the house back. So in other words, you use those same side walls. In this case, you've got a little setback problem with the side walls. I feel like you could avoid a variance and also maintain the historic integrity of the existing structure by using a setback on this addition. And I know that may not cleanly work into your present plan with the kitchen, although it probably could be accommodated, but you might have to rethink the planning a little bit. But you really need to make this, I mean, you're adding more than 50% in length to the existing house, to on the side elevations, right? They're getting more than 50% longer. And they're balanced as it is. Like, for instance, the stair hall is kind of nicely centered in that side elevation on the other side. And now it just kind of stretched to the rear. I think you want to make a discrete addition that where the old house can, which really is a significant structure, can still read as the old house. And that's per the interior, the Secretary of the Interior guidelines. You really want to be able to distinguish between the historic fabric of the house and the new fabric. And if you break that addition in a little, you'll be breaking the roof down a little. You could also break it down further than that if you could make that work architecturally, but at least you'd break the roof plane so you can add a new roof on the new part, and it'll be a separate roof plane than the old roof on the old part. Because I just think you're not maintaining the integrity of the old, because you're kind of like blending it with the new, and the blend's what I would object to. I think you'd also come up with a little narrower rear facade, which would be pleasing.
So you're saying bringing in those sidewalls just a bit to sort of de-emphasize that it's, or actually emphasize that it's an addition.
Emphasize that it's new,
Okay.
right?
So just, that's a good point. So bringing in, how much would you say? And the reason I ask that is because it's for my clients, it's critical to one of their things was to maximize the square footage, which was what we were trying to accomplish.
Right. I mean, even if you made it 2 feet longer and you came in a foot on each side, I mean, you could have the same square footage. I don't think you're constrained on the rear setback. At least you're showing that porch on the rear. So yeah, I would say a foot is a good amount.
Okay.
16, 18 inches is nice, but that's a lot, you know. So I mean, you're balancing it. Making the break is the big thing. You know,
Or are you suggesting as well to drop the roof too?
I think that could be helpful, but it's going to break plane just by going in.
By
I
going
think it would
in
be-
and then that might look, I'm seeing it all just being brought down smaller in the back so that as
Right.
George was talking about, you're separating this from the historic house and you see a clear delineation to the back of the house. I agree with George's comments. It just looks extruded. Can you tell me what the existing square footage is of the historic house versus the
Yes.
square footage that you're adding?
The existing square footage is 1,689 square feet, and the
Okay.
proposed square footage is 680.
Okay.
Mhm.
So it's like another third. Okay.
We are not typically drawn to, we use the derogatory term doghouse when it comes to
Mm,
adding on
Mhm.
something to do with a fireplace, because it just looks so added on, so artificial. There are other ways of handling a gas fireplace than that.
Right. One way is having it live within the existing structure. And another way is to have it be housed in a new brick chimney that would be consistent with what might have happened in that house. Because really we're looking for bays to be windowed bays that are light.
Right, a lot of, yeah, and I completely understand your comments. And I, in terms of design and historical context, part of one of the things was, it comes back to these are very narrow houses. So functionally is finding the compromise between those two elements from design and function. So when we were talking about bringing that fireplace up, it conflicts with the, existing window going all the way up through.
What about a ventless fireplace that's in the room?
Uh-huh.
Right, that's what I meant by the square
Mhm.
footage kind of eats into it, the interior spaces. Just pointing out just kind of showing the thought process behind,
Mhm.
Yeah.
what we're trying to accomplish.
Yeah, I'm trying to look at the new, or possibly a fireplace on the interior wall against that guest bath. Could work as well in the room. Maybe it pushes into the guest bath, or
Yeah,
tweak that area in some way that would allow that to happen. So yeah,
right.
and then that would actually save the exterior construction aspect of it. So it would, potentially make
This
the
is,
project a little easier to achieve.
I don't know if they can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, hi. We were actually trying to maintain the way that the room was designed. So it has the two beautiful stained glass windows on either side of what was, it was a fireplace facade. So what we're trying to do is actually add a fireplace in so that it can look just like it did historically, but yet have a usable fireplace. So that's why we didn't want to move it on any of the walls, actually keeping it where it was to try and again, maintain that integrity.
I see. Oh yeah. Okay. So it's hard for us to tell that. Well, then I would say a successful approach could be creating a brick fireplace in the back and then shouldering it to very narrowly miss that upstairs window if you can. So you could make it narrower to the left side of the fireplace, of the chimney. And run the flue up next to that existing upstairs window. It doesn't have to go straight up.
So you're saying actually put a brick chimney running up the outside?
That would be a consistent architectural element with this home, whereas the cladding little pop-out bay is not. That's what we're saying, right? And we're looking for, because that's on the historic part of the house, we're looking for consistent architectural elements with the age of the house.
Understood. Okay.
Yeah.
That's the only reason.
You know, I think Matt did a nice job on this composition overall. I don't think I agree with breaking it right here. And I'll tell you why. If you break it right here and step this down, this overhang's got to be at least 2 feet, 30 inches if it's an arts and crafts.
Yeah.
So in order for that to hit right on this wall, this baby's got to come in probably 3-4 feet. And by the time you do that, and you want to make sure this roof is down, because it's going to end up getting into all this rake and rake eave, and then you're going to have tension between here and the other roof. And that's going to look like contrived, or, you know, not.
That's one of the things we did was we were trying to avoid having to go to ask for a variance. So we studied where we pulled one side in.
I keep it pure, and I think this makes a nice divider of equal. And I know that whole Secretary of Interior standards, and you know, I think you got to walk that fine line, because yeah, you could show the old and the new, but then to me, this is going to look really odd. You're going to have an unbalanced composition, because you're going to have this element. It's going to be here. This thing's going to come way down here. I don't know if I agree with that personally. And then I think if you get good, high quality craftsmen that know really what they're doing, they can blend and make this seamless. I do agree. I would not do this box out fireplace. You got a beautiful house. And to me, that kind of really makes it look like, you know, a builder special. I would put the brick fireplace here, like George was saying, a nice, beautiful element here that goes something like that, and embellish the beautiful house that you have. I think this is going to hurt it personally.
And you can move your stained glass windows, not get rid of them, but maybe move them.
I think you can fit between them.
Pretty
So they're
tight.
working with interior elements that are there.
Yeah.
So what is I'm seeing in the notes that you have to go for a variance. What is the variance for?
So it's a side yard. So the existing house is over the 5-yard setback.
The existing house is.
The existing,
5 foot.
9.33 inches according to the survey. So
Okay.
if in fact we were doing what George said, we pulled it in and we weren't encroaching within that.
Oh,
5
I
yard
see.
setback,
Okay.
still have to go on no matter what.
Okay.
One of the things I want to point out, and that's why I showed the porch in context, was on the west elevation to show that there is some element of balance. Now, and I know we have to take into consideration that the house, even though it's you can't see the sides of it or the rear of it, it's still important to maintain good design, period. But the rear of the house, really, the views are really pretty amazing. You know, the grade goes down and you can see the wooded area and there's the creek. But I think that back porch, while it's not necessarily finished, does balance out that west elevation to prevent that addition looking like, for lack of a better term, an apartment complex, you know, with the mass that those generally have, like a newer one. And then again, too, with the rafter tails, the windows and that kind of detailing, hopefully balances out and keeps it on that more diminutive detail level.
I really disagree with the idea of just extruding this back. I mean, I think you can overcome those detail issues. And, you know, maybe you do go in 2 feet, or maybe you let those eaves peek out a little bit. As long as you can get down 18 inches from the existing roof line, I think you can detail it cleanly. I mean, I just don't like, I don't like the idea that we're starting to say, oh yeah, that's fine because this just happened 2 weeks ago. It's fine, just extrude that existing house back. I mean, this side is going to look better than the other side, but I like that old composition with the projecting bay towards the rear, and I don't like that longer sidewall as much. And then on the other side, you know, you've got that centered stair hall with the windows half up, half down, and now we're just going to add a big wall to the rear, and that's you know, less fortunate circumstance. So I think from the neighbor standpoint, they're two beautiful craftsman houses. I mean, I think the break is really a critical element on this house, and it shouldn't be overwhelmed by, you know, some difficulty with that detail.
Okay, we have quite a few comments.
I have another
Go
one,
ahead.
just real quick. On your window replacement, are you using wood or aluminum clad on those windows?
We're thinking of a aluminum clad wood window.
Okay.
On the inside.
And then the other thing I was wondering about, Harry, on the garage demo, we're not approving a demo today, correct? Because
No,
we
this
don't
is
have
just, you're just
plan
dealing
for
with
it.
the addition. That will be a
Okay.
different application.
Okay, thank you. Those were my
Yep.
comments.
Actually, Matt, weren't we asking today
Yeah,
for a demo? Yes.
I was showing it on the demolition plan.
Yeah.
Is
So-
taking that down.
Don't we have to have a public meeting for that?
We do. We need to have a public hearing. We have to send out notices to the neighbors and stuff, so.
And much more, the overall project needs to be presented, including what's going to replace the garage and so forth.
Correct.
So
A preliminary-
we need the whole shooting match.
Preliminary architecture for the replacement.
Mhm.
Okay.
And the neighbors that we've talked to have been in support of the project, you know, as presented here, and they're also in favor of taking the garage down because it's dilapidated, has holes in the roof, and it's been unkempt for a while. So we have that.
We understand that.
Yeah.
I did ask Matt when this first came through, if you wanted to entertain the demolition. And he says, no, that would be under a separate application. So by law, we need to notify the neighbors for a demolition request. And like I said, the ABR will want to see what's going to replace it.
Okay.
Okay.
The other comment that I have is around the color of the house. So we are looking at a navy blue with cream trim. And then when we replace the windows, like Matt said, we would do the aluminum wood windows, and we're looking at a darker color for those. So I do have those color schemes, and we would bring those with us to the next meeting. But I didn't know if that was something that needed to be more specifically discussed, or but they're the Sherwin-Williams colors that are on the classical home schematic.
We'd like to see we do not control color of the cladding, but windows certainly are under our purview, and a lot of people have been going to the black windows, and I think they're going to be tired. We're going to look back and regret all the black windows that are around town.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But
yeah, I
we
mean-
certainly would like to see your ideas. Yes.
Okay.
But
Okay.
yeah, it is
And then-
ultimately up to you. The details of the windows fall under our purview.
Sure.
I think
those
in this
would be-
style, possibly matching the cream trim could be a great way to go too. With the windows.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Not tinted glass, please.
No tinted glass.
This is Scott. Can I go back, George, to the comments you were saying about the extruded in the side wall? Not to belabor the point, one of the things we worked with Matt very hard on was trying to make sure that we maintain the integrity of the structure inside and out. and if you see the living space where the rear of the house is, the dining room, the dining room, kitchen, family room, the area that will be brought in by what you're suggesting.
Oh.
And sorry for the interruption. And what that does to that family room by bringing that wall in by the proposed, if it's 18 inches or so, the way that is laid out, and I don't know, Matt, if you can give us the dimension from corner to corner, the width of the house from kitchen family room standpoint, that renders the family room unusable in terms of furniture and traffic flow from the kitchen island. You see that main hallway coming through there. That's really the necessity or the usability of that space is what's caused us to present it the way that you see it today.
And what I would say is it does present an architectural challenge. I recognize that, but there are lots of ways to make that room work. I mean, I'm not sure that the fireplace you have in the rear is really workable with a room layout right now. And I mean, you might have to turn the kitchen sideways or look at things a little differently, but that doesn't mean that it's not possible. I mean, your family room is pretty long and narrow right now. And certainly the master seems to have kind of extra space upstairs. Really, in terms of the breaking in, yeah, I mean, the second floor is more critical even than the first floor. So, and you've got quite a bit of space up there. So
yeah,
I mean, there's a way. Let me put it this way: there's a way to skin that cat. I know it creates a break point, and it's a challenge in the plan. But maybe you rethink the powder location. There's all kinds of things. You're going to have a lot of traffic coming through that rear door. Do you want it to come right into your kitchen? There's all kinds of things you could look at on the inside and probably pick a slightly different strategy. So
if we shorten the length of the addition, so where you're referencing the extra space in the master, if we make it a shorter than a 14-foot or 13-foot addition, would that satisfy your means?
No, I mean, it's not the length of it, it's the width that's the problem. I mean, as I was saying, it could get longer. Conceivably, if it works on the site plan. It's the
traffic
the balance on the site. Yeah, and also you are supposed to be able to tell where a historic house ends and where the addition starts, and everything you're doing is defeating that with just continuing those walls. So, I mean, you actually have an old addition that you're working with. Maybe there's something tricky you can do that, using that footprint, which I believe is flush. But
yeah, it is. And that existing footprint had the bathroom was in the kitchen. So we're trying to relocate that bath out of the kitchen
Exactly.
in a way. And the width of the house from the non-conforming lot is funneling all the living space down into the narrowest part of the structure. And that's what we're trying to address and trying to create usable living space without it. We're trying to strike that balance. So we're cognizant of.
And I'm telling you, there are multiple ways to do that.
I think we were actually focused on keeping the historical portion of the house and the new addition of the house separate, but on the inside. And the reason that we're doing that, we found a beautiful, new mantle that matches the current front door. And we're gonna, put that between the beautiful stained glass windows. So we're keeping that historic kind of feel of the house. As you walk in, you'll feel that. And then as you walk towards the back of the house, you feel that you're getting into a more modern space. So we're doing exactly what you're saying, physically on the inside, and then wanted from the exterior to be able to keep it a little more cohesive, so that, from the neighbor's perspective, they don't see this chunk off the back of the house. They see just, you know, a new house from the outside, but yet keeping all the character and maintaining all
Consistency.
that historic consistency. So that was the intent of what we were doing.
I'm
So yeah.
sympathetic with those goals. I mean, I think that's nice what you're trying to do inside. We're just talking about, I mean, we only look at the exterior really, and the difficulty with that strategy is that you're kind of on the two side elevations, you're not recognizing the demarcation between the old and the new. And it's important. It's explicitly discussed in the Secretary of Interior standards for historic additions or renovations. I think it's be a really concerning precedent to set.
I would entertain a motion here.
Motion to revise and submit based on comments related to incorporating the rear addition, the doghouse fireplace element, and help me out. What were the other-
Extrusion.
Yeah, to try to minimize the extrusion, the appearance of extrusion at the rear.
Great demarcation.
Demarcation.
Wait, what was that?
A demarcation between
Establishing a demarcation. I would second that motion. I would also make the comment that I too have concerns about the extrusion appearance. However, the west elevation we've been staring at for 45 minutes is pretty much impossible to see, because if you stand back 50 or 75 feet from this house, you're 2 doors down. So the extrusion aspect it's very hard to view, put it that way. I would just make that comment.
Yeah, there's a public sight line from Ridgewood, but it's more of a walk by than a drive by.
Yeah. Question?
Conceivably, if we make these changes, you know, and I can work with these, we could revise and resubmit and get final approval if it's acceptable.
Well, you have a big project here. You've got the addition and all that we've just discussed. You also have a demolition, and we haven't seen anything in the new garage. So that I'll kind of have to wrap it up into a package before, because we can't undemolish a garage. So we want to know where we're going completely. So I would say no. You would have to have the demolition approved. In order to have the demolition approved, you have to show us and have us approve at least a preliminary on the new garage. So it can't happen in one additional visit. No.
If we remove the demolition of the garage from it for now.
I think then you're allowed to submit for an addition final. In other words, you could have come in for final approval today for this addition as its own element.
No, you couldn't, because they had to go to they had to go to Board of Zoning
variance.
Oh,
Appeals.
because of the variance, right? Well, if you were to submit it without a variance, you could be submitting it for final. So possibly the breaking back on the side could relieve you of the burden of the variance also.
The addition could affect the design of the garage. I would point that out. You don't want to paint yourself into a corner.
Okay.
So we have a motion on the floor and it's been seconded. You want me to call the roll?
Yes, please.
Okay, motion by Naylor, seconded by King. Childs,
Yes.
King,
Yes.
Naylor.
Yes.
Hey, Harry, before we go on, could we go back to number one? I apologize. I missed the vote, and I would like to say my vote is abstain for one.
I think we already picked up on that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, Matt, thank you.
Thank you.
George, thank you for straightening out the HSR and the project thing. I appreciate that.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I wasn't sure because I hadn't seen that.
I didn't consider it. Yeah, okay, thank you. Moving on to 513 North Street, Foley.
So, board members, this is kind of a unique one because typically you look at solar panels that are on a structure. And in this application, the applicant wanted to build a freestanding solar panel in his backyard, not attached to a structure. So he had to go in front of the Board of Zoning Appeals, which he did, and did get approval from them. But now this comes back to you because we have landscaping issues, and that's part of your purview and design review is landscaping. So that's why this is in front of you. Mr. Foley and Mr. Lip, I believe, will be presenting, and they can talk their way through the project.
Good morning.
Morning.
What the homeowner has requested, Conrad Foley and his wife Barbara, is a ground mount solar array consisting of 30 solar modules taking up less than 500 square feet on their 2.5 acre property on North Street. What we've designed is a planting using pollinator perennials and shrubs to screen the array that is at the back of the rear of their property. And these are, anyway, a pollinator garden is what we've designed to screen this. You see the oak, that's the landscape design that I drew up.
So Stuart, just for reference, see where my little hand is on the left?
No, over there, yes.
Yeah, so is this the array of the panels?
That is the array. That is the front part towards the pollinator garden is the forward edge, and the that line at the 90-degree angle at the end would be the back edge of the array.
Okay, and how tall is the arrays from ground?
It's less than 12 feet.
Okay.
You touched on an explanation, but I guess I want to understand what a pollinator garden means. And is it a barrier from like today, November, until May, half the year? I mean, is it a barrier year round?
No. Well, some of the shrubs, the dogwood would be quite colorful because they're red stem. That is used. With the pollinator garden is shrubs and perennials that bees are attracted to. Birds and bees are attracted to. The shrubs.
If we're talking about this as a visual barrier, it's not a visual barrier. And a dogwood is deciduous.
It's deciduous.
It's not a barrier either. From November to May, there's no barrier.
Well, there's the red twigs of it. And this is sitting back at the rear of their property. If you went back to that one photo with the oak, we provided two photos. One from Conrad's driveway and the other one from the edge of his property. That is by the edge of the property. So you have this oak on the left, and the array would sit beyond that, about 100 feet beyond that.
So back in here,
to the left of that, the leading edge would be right in line with that oak, and then the balance of it would be to the left of it.
okay.
I feel like this project, I know you're trying to head in the right direction with it, and I'm sympathetic with the idea of the solar array, but I think you need to present something showing the site plan and the two houses, and it may not need to be a surveyed site plan, but you know, a reasonably close site plan and the two houses and where those things are. I mean, I don't think that 8.5 by 11 piece of paper really allows us to make a good judgment on whether that does help screen, because I do think across the backyard, it's that where the solar arrays placed is potentially in clear sight of the neighbors. So I'm just think if to avoid confusion, you should really come back with something that's more of a bigger view, so we can see what houses are looking at this and how are they screened.
And I'd add one more layer to that. I would personally add a landscape architect that would properly work as a team with you to not only make sure that it works effectively, but to screen it properly with, you know, native vegetation, and so it blends and feels natural and doesn't become an eyesore.
Photographs of what your neighbors will see.
We were not asked to screen for the neighbors. We were asked to screen from the street.
Well, I take
Neighbor,
into
the neighbor
consideration.
to the neighbor to the right can clearly see it.
Well, in a case like this where you're doing something that's, you know, potentially not what people want to look at, I think screening from the neighbors should be a consideration.
Okay. Conrad, are you available?
What's that?
Is Conrad available?
I think he's online here. Is Conrad fully online?
Yes, it took me a moment to unmute. I will. Conrad, if you could unmute yourself,
Yep.
I've given you the ability.
Okay, how's that?
Super.
Okay. So I'm here now.
Would you care to chime in on their thoughts as to screening,
Yeah, I mean,
getting
yes.
a professional architect, landscape architect?
Yeah, so I'm completely sympathetic to, you know, not creating an eyesore. And I think that, you know, considering the distance from the street, it's going to be not visible for the vast majority of my frontage. I mean, the photo that's displayed right now sort of demonstrates that it would be from the middle of my property, from the frontage, would be completely screened with what's there now. The lower photo shows, you know, the far corner of my frontage. And that was sort of what our thinking was, that we were going to need to have some type of, you know, not opaque barrier, but, you know, something that broke it up and made it a little more, you know, landscapey, let's say, in that area. So that, you know, that was our thinking. That's why we weren't, doing anything in great detail, because frankly, it seemed like it was, you know, we wouldn't need to do very much because for the most part, it was already screened.
Are you are you working with a landscaper currently?
I am.
Is he able to provide like a streetscape view where you guys can model the solar panels in the back and then show us a landscape plan with the shrubbery and stuff?
Well, the short answer is no. I asked him to do that for this meeting. He said he wouldn't draw plans. That was something he couldn't offer. And then I have to admit, I was not anticipating needing anything in great detail. So I figured we would just go with what Stuart had drawn up. So I do have, you know, I can pursue it further if you would like. It sounds like you're telling me I'm going to need to do that, but, you know, of course I would rather not do that if I can, you know, avoid the cost.
I can superimpose a photo with the array. Given this photo and the other one, I can superimpose a solar array, a ground mount solar array into the back of that photo, I believe.
But I think the
Not
important,
easy, but it
it's
can be
important to
done.
have a plan view of the site, the neighbors' houses, and just show what the potential visual impact is. Even, I'm assuming the neighbors are supportive. But even if they are, 3 years from now, someone else could be living in your neighbor's house. It's just a matter of doing some greenscaping, like 12-month, not deciduous, something along the viewpoint from your neighbor's house to this element. Seems like that would mitigate any negative effects of having it back there. I 300 feet from the street's a long way. We get that. I think the streets to some degree is like less of the concern.
Okay. So am I hearing correctly from you that you're thinking we would need to have something more evergreen and opaque between our property and the neighboring property, but the general idea of what we put forward today relative to street would be okay?
I'm a consultant to the board. My personal opinion, it probably would be, but you'd have to, there's a 3-person voting board, so I'm not sure what their attitude is towards that.
Yeah, I was just trying to get some guidance that if I'm going to have to go to a landscape architect about, what the requirements are, that's why I was just trying to be clear before I had to take that step.
The code asks us to protect, I guess you'd say, protect the neighborhood. And if somebody's enjoying their backyard and the nature in their backyard, and then they have, how would you refer to it, an industrial structure, all of a sudden, that would change the neighborhood. So yeah, we need to protect what the neighbors are going to be invisible, no, but and the year-roundness of it would be very important. Not that you would have to tell a landscape architect, but something that deer don't want to eat. Otherwise, it would be a moot point. Yes.
Also, we don't want to shade the array.
That's true.
But it doesn't work for Conrad and his family. So your garden was using native perennials and shrubs from.
I think it's important as our code states, it must be screened from view. So we have to make sure that we are screening it from view. And under the solar panels, it's pretty clear on what you have to do as far as screening from view. So I think I'll leave this decision up to the ABR, but I think it's important that you give us a landscape plan that shows what's being planted, whether it's going to be arborvitaes or some other species. I'm not a landscape architect, but they need to see the screening.
Okay.
All right. I move to revise and resubmit given the discussion today.
Second. No, go ahead with Bill. Yeah.
Okay, so we have a motion by King, seconded by Childs to revise and resubmit. Naylor,
Yes.
King,
Yes.
Childs.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Stuart, if you have any questions, give me a call.
All right. Thank you, folks. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.
2-minute break.
Did somebody hear a voice just now?
That was
Yes, I said 2-minute break.
Sounded like a church mouse.
And that's a smart voice. 2 minutes, yes.
2 minutes, everybody.
Harry? The discussion on the Main Street Bridge is starting to stir. What venue do we use properly to discuss the architectural aspects of the proposed bridge reconstruction?
Well, I'll tell you, I haven't been part of those discussions, but I would suggest that maybe you reach out to the chief administrative officer and talk to him about that.
Well, I'm a consultant on it from 2015.
Yeah,
That's when
I know they've had a,
Section
they did a
106.
revision to it, and I know they,
Section 106, yeah.
the date has been pushed
Yes.
back.
I'm aware of all the latest, but I'd like to talk to some architects about it, like
Mhm.
our board. It's not before us. Do we make it part of a meeting? Do we have a,
I would talk to the administrator first, because the village doesn't really have too much say so. It's a county job. So I would suggest talking to Rob about it first.
okay, I was thinking more of Dale, actually. In other words, talking to George and Phil.
I don't know how much Dale's involved, how much Dale's been involved with it right now, because I know the chief administrative officer, the mayor, and I believe our engineer have had some dialogue with the county, but I don't know where those talks lie. I don't know what the date is, nothing. So,
I got a 30-page package that tells me where we are, and
Okay.
I want an architect to discuss it. Because it's not a done deal. They don't cram it down our throat necessarily.
yeah, like I say, you would have to talk to the chief administrative officer on that.
Okay, thank you.
Which job are you talking about, Steve?
The bridge, the reconstruction of the bridge, they are reneging on their first plan, and they're headed towards a concrete bridge is what they're doing.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh,
So we're gonna have to change all the sign coming to Chagrin Falls. We have to change all those pictures of the bridge to a concrete bridge.
Well, actually, that logo that's on our screen at the bottom.
There you go. Forget that logo. It's
Wow.
gone. Yeah.
that's crazy.
Yeah,
Does
it's
it cost?
It's multifaceted. Money's involved and time of closure of the bridge is involved. It's a complicated thing. But I want
Who is
I want-
paying?
architects to look at it. And
I believe, is Cuyahoga County paying?
Yes, they are. It's a county project, so,
Ooh,
everything I got was from ODOT.
well, the county's paying the bill.
Okay. The
That's,
ODOT
like I say, I'm not involved in those discussions. So like I said, that's
Right.
something that needs to be talked to administration.
All right, you're right.
anyone know Armin Budish?
I mean,
I know somebody who works very closely with him, his fraternity brother. But
Well,
this is ODOT is deciding this, ODOT is deciding that, ODOT's historical consultation, it's all Ohio,
light up the phones. If they're paying, they've got to say, right?
you know, right? Gee, maybe
All right,
we
we're ready.
could get Barb in on this somehow.
hi, Barb.
Okay, let's start the meeting again. 240 Ramley Court.
Hey, I think Kevin, if everybody can hear me, Kevin White, the architect, is trying to get into the meeting. I can't tell on my end if he's in.
Christy can tell.
I'm back. I have a hand raised, Craig Novak. Is that who we're looking for?
No, he,
That's one of the neighbors, Kevin White, 80 Architecture. Design.
Okay, thank you. I see Kevin White as well.
Oh, appreciate it. Thank you.
Sure.
Good morning, everybody, by the way.
Morning.
morning, Brad.
Let me know when you want. It looks like Craig Novak has his hand raised and would like to speak. So board, let me know when it sounds like he's a neighbor who'd like to speak on the project. So let me know when you'd like me to allow him to speak.
Very good. Let's see the project.
Okay. I did send out notices to adjacent property owners per our code, so that's why Mr. Novak is wanting to speak. So this is a new house down in Bramley Court, single family residential. I do have a letter from the homeowners association in support of the design. And with that, I will turn it over to you folks and Brad Composo of Premier Builders.
Can we go up a little bit, Harry? Where's the north arrow on Bramley Court there?
North would be, this is an architectural, north would be to your left here. This is an architectural site plan. I did get a site plan yesterday from the surveyor, but it wasn't to scale, so I couldn't show it on the plans here. But north is to your left, so
North is left.
left, right.
South
So
is right. So we've got the good south.
this is Craig
Those are
Novak's
the big
house right
garage.
here. This is Novak's house right here. He's the newest house on the street.
Gotcha. And that, so this site plan would be incredibly more helpful, and it's also part of the submission requirements that we do show the neighbors' structures, so we have a sense of the adjacencies and how this design, and I'm thinking especially of the house on the cul-de-sac.
Right.
You know, you've got a garage that's very prominent, kind of on the cul-de-sac. The garage is almost the primary element you're seeing, and you know, I'm curious where that neighbor's house is, if there's a house there.
There actually isn't a home directly adjacent to that right now, George.
Yeah, this is a vacant lot right here where my hand is. The next house is over here.
Next, well, so even that one would be interesting just to see like how far back it is. So where would a house likely land in that wedge lot that's
Sure.
unbuilt?
Morning, everyone. Can you hear me?
Barely.
Barely. That's not good. Can you hear me now?
Now it's still a little light on the audio.
Pleasure to meet everybody. I'll try to talk louder. I got to tell you a funny story. I got to meet Stuart Lip, your previous presenter. Christy sent me the email attachment, and I was calling the guy up and said, you know, I was asking him, I didn't get my attachment in the order of the minutes, and he's like, he was very helpful and said, you know, my brother, hey, where are you living? And I'm out in San Diego, and he said, my brother lives in Del Mar and everything, and finally he said, well, I don't work for the city of Chagrin Falls. I'm just a presenter. You need to call Christy. And somehow his number got on the bottom of the email page. So I met a new friend. So he was a super nice guy. But anyhow,
He is a nice guy.
Yes, he is.
I've enjoyed meeting you guys, listening to your George and Bill and Steve, Wendy, your comments, and Harry. And I'd like to kind of share my screen if I could, to show you some of the 3D, if that would be possible.
Sure.
Okay.
Christy.
Yep, Kevin there you go. Super.
Can you see a screen yet?
Yes.
Okay, so you see my screen, right?
Yes.
Okay, so this is the draft. Here is the 3D of the project. So it gives you a little bit better understanding of colors and what we're trying to do, okay? So this was the previous color rendition with the grays. We're pulling some elements off previous projects. So we're trying to get a Hampton-esque style. So, oh, that's the wrong. We were looking at the darker gray, and I think we're gonna lighten it up at this point. So the garage has a slight tilt to it, which is primarily driven by the lot. If you look at the site plan, you'll see that there's a little bit of a constraint. So we're trying to fit this in properly. We're using sort of the metal roof here, over the bays. Let me zoom in on this. Okay. Can you see that?
Yep.
Yeah.
So we've got the nice crown details up in the double columns. You know, there'll be stone and a cap. The windows will be wrapped in the AZAC. There'll be shake up in the siding. At the stair location, there's a couple of brackets. This is just a Hampton-esque style. And we just kind of cascade and go down toward the center. Here's the windows wrap with the proper sill details and a stone ledge coming across the edge. So I'll kind of go through here so you can get a feel of what this looks like. Let me back up. Let me back away. And there's the garage, and it's like at a, I think it's like a 15-degree angle, which is nice because it creates a little bit of a break, and then the garage, the driveway would be coming along the side. Now there's a second site plan that we've shown. Let me back up. Said we're still. This was in the darker. And I'll just kind of show you the concepts of, you know, this would be changed out. This was the other color study that we're looking at. Okay. To get a feel. Back away. What's going on now? Okay, there we go. Okay. So now I'm going to bring up the, I guess what I would ask for is your initial comments of what you have now. You know, the details would be similar to these. Let me see if I can get a different, there's like the stone detail. This is the crown detail.
Kevin?
Yes, sir.
On the preliminary preview, we're interested more in massing and size and
All right.
how it fits the lot and so forth, not so much the accoutrements. That comes a bit later.
Terrific. All right, so I guess what I would do is, you know, open up your comments, what your thoughts were for the form and for the styling of the house.
So I don't have any problem with a Hampton-esque style on this street because there are actually just a multitude of styles on the street. So I kind of like the front porch element, and you know, I think you can do stuff like that. My biggest concern would be that you've got the garage located on the south side of the house. I mean, in terms of sun orientation and really making use of the light, you know, in San Diego, you're trying to keep the light out of the house. In Cleveland, you're trying to bring the light into the house.
Yes, sir.
Because there's not as much light here as there is in San Diego. In fact, there's probably 20% of the light. And so having that in the north side, I'm also concerned that the garage element is really very prominent on the cul-de-sac and will be the primary element of this house that you're going to see, you know, really be right in your face if you build the wedge adjacent wedge lot. Almost no matter what they do, because they're going to have to be back behind you, I believe. So from that standpoint, I almost want to, you know, mirror your whole plan, get the garage maybe where it belongs on the north side of the house. But the only other comments I have are that I feel like there might be a little too much going on. I don't like the stair tower seems disproportionately kind of stretched upward, and it has a uncomfortable relationship with the gable to the left. I like the other elements of the house. I guess the only other thing about the garage that I don't love is that you've got the fake window bay built in the garage, which just always seems like a Band-Aid visually, but those are our comments. I mean, I think there's a lot of, those are my comments. I mean, there are a lot of nice elements here too. I think this is going to be an attractive house. Just really concerned that you're on the cul-de-sac, even though you're not. And that's a tricky relationship. You've got to kind of look two ways.
George, those are very good comments. The lot itself does propose some challenges. Let me bring up the
I
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm sorry we're having some audio difficulties. My microphone is set back. Let me try to speak up a little bit and bring this site plan up. I'm gonna rotate this around, okay? One moment. Okay, so let me do a 180 on this. Come on. Okay. There we go. So what we're saying, here's the site drawing.
I'm not seeing nothing.
We're not seeing it.
We're still looking at your other picture
You don't see a site plan yet.
of the model. No, but if you want, Harry could start screen sharing again and
Okay, let me try sharing the screen. It may have, let me try it again, one more time, sorry. Resume share. Resume share. Are you only seeing my model drawings right now?
Correct.
New share. Got it. It's all right, working through it. Do you see the site plan
there we
now?
go.
Yes.
Site plan. Yep.
Okay, so terrific. So here's the street and here's the cul-de-sac, So we're coming down the main drag and we're trying to address our home, against Bramley Court. So now it's like, as you put it, here's the 10-foot setback right here. And then you see how the cul-de-sac breaks. So what I was trying to do is, when I looked at flipping it the other way, the garage, if I was going to take this plan and try to flip it, you're seeing it becomes more prominent as from the main part of the street than this. Whereas if I take the garage and kick it, see this angle right here? That's actually a setback line which delineated and defined the angle of that garage. And so I'm seeing the majority, I'm seeing this the beautiful elevation, I'm seeing this, and I'm hiding this, but still this garage elevation, we addressed it as attractive. We broke it into 3 pieces, 3 separate doors, and put a gable over this door here. Let me go back to show you what I have. New share. Sorry
Right,
about this.
It's definitely a decorated shed, as they say. I mean, it's a nice, it looks like it's going to be nicely detailed as a garage.
Are you seeing the new rendering now?
Yeah, we're still looking at the front though.
Okay, so here's what I wanted to propose. Sorry, this is the first time I've gone through this program to do this, so I'm a little bit technically challenged. I'm going to open up the side elevation.
We lost you.
You lost me. Start share.
Oh, there we go.
There's, sorry, there's a little bit of a lag. Sorry. So
thanks.
Different time zone.
So this was the part that we were going to take the gable, put this out, and the 3 doors separated by this, and then you'd see the porch coming around the corner. Do you see that drawing, the side elevation?
Yes.
Yes.
So these were the challenges as far as what our main point was to try to create this, to take the site in the existing site. And I saw by the bend of that lot where I'm only having a small section of corner, I felt like this was the least conspicuous to have to get the side entry garage as I would be coming down Bramley Court. So that was the thought process that kind of went into this. I'm going to go back to the original rendering.
Yeah, I agree. It works as far as fitting on the lot,
Mm-hmm.
but obviously the sun orientation and the view from your future neighbor to the right or everyone on the cul-de-sac is another consideration.
That's the only view they'll see.
Mhm.
Uh-huh. All right, so let me go start. Do you see this house again?
Now we're still seeing the garage elevation.
Okay, so let's go back to the screen.
There you go.
Okay, so there's about a second delay. Okay, so I guess I would entertain, as far as going back to the elements of the garage. Okay, so George, if we were treating the garage differently and address the garage elevation, do you agree that the house has a better feel from that the garage should be garage right? I mean, that would be what
I personally don't, well, I mean, I can't see the house on your left side, so to the north. But I think as a starting point in a development, I mean, I would just go garage north in Cleveland. And you know, you're adjacent to your neighbor. I mean, I don't think it's objectionable to have the garage be first on the street, because, you know, people are driving in, they're driving out, you know, I don't think the garage necessarily should be kind of to the right of the house because you come down the street and see the house first. It's more everyone's around it in different places. And, you know, I think you got to consider all the points of view.
Okay. How about you, Bill? I don't see Bill Childs on there as well.
Yeah, my first comment would be, how does this, from a massing standpoint, with the neighboring houses, is this a small house, an average house, a big house, as far as keeping context? I know George commented they're all different houses and stuff, but from a massing standpoint of a footprint, how does this compare? Which I think would be very interesting to see on a site plan, like how do those houses kind of fall on the cul-de-sac and how big they are. My next comment would be, I feel like there is a lot going on this elevation. You've got a ton of stuff going on, and I would simplify it. I mean, you got 3 gables just on the main mass. I'd try to eliminate maybe 2 of those gables and the brackets, and it just seems like there's tons of stuff going on. And simplify the garage and not have all these bays and things. I would try to simplify, and I agree with George. I think I'd flip the garage to the other side, which I know is a difficult site. It looks like you have to pull at that certain angle to just get it fit right. But I'm just wondering, again, how is it massing wise with the other houses around that cul-de-sac? Is this going to be a giant house and all these other ones are going to be dwarfed, or is it going to be comparable?
Hey, I can probably speak to that. And I wrote on the notes, obviously, to show the neighbor's house on our final site plan. But when I looked up the other homes in the neighborhood, this home footprint is right in the median, or probably a little bit less than the other homes on the street. It is set back in line with Mr. Novak's home on the left-hand side. And I think one of the reasons why we're talking about angling this garage is trying to protect the homeowner's privacy as far as the angle of the backyard, as far as the house set goes. So when they're in their backyard, that they have privacy and are not staring at the neighbor's potential neighbor on the right-hand side, like looking at their front door. And so I'm almost wondering if it makes any sense if we plant pine trees on the right side of the driveway there to kind of mask a little bit of those garage doors, if that's helpful in achieving what everyone's looking for, but still protecting the view of looking out our great room windows, because we spent a lot of time looking at different options as far as the garage left or right.
The other comment I'd have is you don't want to have stuff like this. See how this gets cut off? Again, thinking purity of form. And then also at the 15-degree angle, you get these weird crashes here, which again, I think with trying to keep traditional architecture, you want to keep purity of form and simplicity. And again, I know George said that there's a variety of houses on there, but I'm thinking overall Chagrin Falls, you want to kind of, to me, this house would be in one of our other neighboring communities. I mean, it's beautiful with all the different elements, but I think for Chagrin Falls, I'd want to simplify it personally.
I think there's a number of houses that are this big, they're just not on this lot. I think most of your comments are geared towards how you can jam this big house on that oddball sort of pie-shaped lot. And your neighbors are paying the price because you're guarding the backyard and bending the garage so it fits. And it's just really featuring the garage doors to anybody on the cul-de-sac. And it's sort of a horizontal house on a really small lot. The other big houses on that development are on bigger lots, or at least more buildable lots.
The picture looks, the picture looks pretty, but just as a side note, I'm not seeing any downspouts. How's that gonna come?
Yeah, well, you got me there, Harry. You're right. There would be downspouts. There'd be downspouts coming down. They're not shown.
Which that could play into the design of how it looks, so.
Right. Well, yeah, they would be, there'd be downspouts which we would bring down appropriately. So I guess from what I'm gathering from Bill is you feel like, for example, that for Chagrin Falls, we're, part of the Hampton style of housing that you're detailing in that form is there's a lot of eccentric or eclectic elements that, you're positioning.
It's beautiful. Just build it.
Like for example, you have a lot that you're doing. There's a lot of eclectic elements. We were trying to pull off some of these concepts, on different houses, but pulling them back into this. So that was where this kind of came out, and this shape of the forms and things like that. So, in my view, when I looked at this garage and the way I was going to detail it, based on this, I liked the beauty of this and the extensions and the three windows being repeated, the bays being repeated. And I was looking at this and I thought, that I was very happy with the way this was starting to feel. Now flipping the house is I'm not sure. I've got to see how this would fit. There's a part of me that says, golly, this is right. This is right as far as the garage being on the right side of this house and bringing it around.
I feel that we're sort of going around in a circle here. Some comments have been made. I think you should revise and resubmit this, taking the comments.
Okay.
It's a busy house. If this house is being built someplace else in Chagrin Falls, we would say, it doesn't fit the neighborhood. It should be in a new development. Well, you're in a new development. So we're giving you, it's a beautiful house and I don't need to see the elements again.
Yes.
But the idea that the garage is exposed to the neighborhood to an unreasonable degree, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or 6 gables, and it's a busy house on an oddball lot, and it's quite a challenge, and it's a beautiful house. But we do need to revise and resubmit, given the comments, and I so move.
Before you take a vote, Steve, there's some public comment out there. Do you want to?
Oh, yes, our neighbor, the neighbor. Yes, I'm sorry. Yes, please.
We have a neighbor with a hand raised as well as a chat. I'll let Mr. Novak go first because he's been waiting, and then I'll read the chat that came in.
Very good.
Thank you. Mr. Novak, I'm inviting you to the conversation. If you'll unmute when you have the opportunity. Working the technical side here. Mr. Novak, if you could unmute and you have the opportunity. You have the option to start your camera. It's up to you.
Yeah, I don't even know how, but I guess I could. Video. Okay, so I guess if anybody knows the street better than as well as anybody, it's me because I just built the house. You guys can hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm at 230 Bramley, the house next door. As far as the size goes, I think my footprint's actually a little bit bigger. Harry could probably verify that. I did my garage rear facing. That way I could maximize the width of my house. And that way I had the house 2 feet, a driveway, and then 6 feet to the house next door. So, going back, when you're buying a house next to a vacant lot, you never know what's going to end up next door to you. So a few weeks ago, after meeting the Moonies, I had them send me what they're building. And I took a long look at it, all 4 sides of it. And so I decided I want to make some comments. I want to add comments based on what I've heard so far as your feedback goes. So one of the challenges on that street, and I think Harry certainly knows this as well as anybody, is the drainage issue and the height of the house compared to what the current grade is. When I built my house stuck, 4 feet out of the ground, and we brought in a ton of dirt. And as each house goes closer to the cul-de-sac, I think they drop the elevation of the first floor 1.5 feet. So this house next door to me, had you put the driveway facing north, like Mr. Clemens had suggested, the house probably doesn't fit, and the architect could verify that, because it's my understanding the driveway has to be 6 feet from my lot line, and then to get a car out of a garage, you probably need 27 to 30 feet. So now you're pushing the house over, let's say 30, pretty far over. It would push it right to the cul-de-sac. As far as the excessive gables goes, that I'm not an architect. I think they're fine. A lot of the other houses have gables. Many of the houses that were built by Alexandria have a lot of gables, a lot of hips, whatever. I have no opinion on that stuff. And as far as the other comments about how the side load garage looks to the cul-de-sac, keep in mind sublot 7 has 3 front loading garages. So as you drive down the street, you get to the cul-de-sac, see the white house on the left, that has 3 front load garages. So these side load or 15-degree angle garages are really no more obtrusive than the 3 front load garages. So I think it works good. I've talked to the Moonies about the distance between the house, because one of the things you brought up is you want to see a site plan on where it sits close to my house. I believe this will probably sit 10 feet from the lot line. My house is 10 feet from the lot line. And we've already discussed the height differences and how we'll landscape to make a swale between the houses to take the water to the back. And I don't know. I think this site plan as they're proposing is probably the best use of that lot, because I've spent a lot of time there, and it is a tricky lot. And I think the Moonies are going to build a great house that will look really good on the street.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Craig.
Okay.
We had one person who's also a neighbor who offered comments via the chat, so I'll read those out loud. This is from Robbie Groden. Sorry if I mispronounced your last name. Neighbor to the west of the site, I agree with the current position of the garage. Highly recommend ARB closely examine the actual lot location prior to recommending switching of garage position. Its current drawing is far less obtrusive to the neighborhood.
Thank you for those comments. Thank you, Craig, and thank you, Robbie Groden.
And just for the record, Rob Groden is the developer, that he's part of the HOA. And I do have a written comments from him as well, so.
And he owns a house that is actually to the west, so beyond the development behind it.
Correct.
So he's a neighbor.
Correct.
So I think one of the main questions for us is, I think we hear loud and clear about simplifying the front of the house and coming back to you guys with some different details on that. One of the questions I had, I just have a couple questions if you don't mind. Like if we go with single pillars on the front porch, somebody had made a comment in an earlier meeting about the metal roof. If we go to an asphalt roof on there and then maybe get rid of some of those gables, are we headed in the right direction in this board's mind?
I think it's the tightness of the gables to each other, and for me, it's particularly the stair gable that seems disproportionate and kind of forced into its spot. Like if that became a recessive element, that probably would go a long way,
In other words,
in my mind, in terms of simplifying the facade. But Bill Childs was one who actually made the comment about simplifying it. So I defer to what his thought on that.
No, I agree. I would, I'd pull this away instead of having this collision where you slice. And I would try to simplify this area because this, with these brackets, and I would try to simplify as much as possible. It's just try to see how many things you can do on a front elevation possible. So I would just try to do some studies of simplifying some of the gables and some of the box bays, and instead of trying to get as many possible elements as you can on there.
Terrific. Yeah, Bill, it's a good point. At one point we were talking about pulling this element forward. It's just missing by a few inches. So literally pulling this forward and then playing this down. Remove some of the complexity. The other thought that we had was, we had a large window we've done this detail in New York. So we had where we could break this. So for example, it becomes smaller squares, maybe two, maybe there's a line through the middle, and some of this comes down. So if we remove this and reduce it, we maybe even delete this entire gable. Let me back away.
In your starting comments, you referred to the stone, and there was a characteristic that you said, and I didn't understand what the stone is. Something stone.
It meant the type of the stone.
Well, cast stone or what?
It would have a stone like a cap. There's a cap on this.
I didn't understand that. Cap?
Like a cap. For example, like a stone piece that goes over the tops of the ledgestone.
Yes, I got it. Okay, thank you.
That's what this gray is kind of indicating.
Got it.
Trying to indicate in the 3D that we're putting that on there. Well, I appreciate the comments for the board.
I'm sorry, but I wasn't here when you guys started. So could Kevin and Brad tell me who you are and,
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Sure, I'm Brad Campos. I'm the owner of Premier Custom Builders, and Kevin White is the architect.
Thank you.
And I think we've heard from a couple of the neighbors and everything. I guess the big thing, the big unknown for us is, because we spent a lot of time with this garage on the right or the left. I mean, if we come back to the board and we've had these trying to flip the garage and we end up back where we're at, I just wanted to get a feel for how steadfast the board is after hearing from the neighbors about the orientation of this, or if we submit some landscape screening at our next submittal, in addition to the other comments that the board has made, keeping the garage on the right-hand side, if the board is going to be open to it.
Well, we certainly listen to the neighbors, because neighbors are very important. And we also view the neighbors as very temporary, because nobody lives anywhere for more than 5 years. So we're thinking the long haul, but we do take the neighbors' comments
I believe the only thing I would say, because I'm not a voting member, so you're talking about the three voting members. But, I believe Mr. Novak said the driveway has to be 6 feet from the property line. I think that's actually 2 feet. And obviously you could potentially have a rear facing garage. So you could have 2 feet, the driveway, and, you know, another couple feet and then the garage structure on the left. But, you know, I view that aspect of it more as a suggestion to get much more light into the house. That to me, that's not a, that's really the purview of the property owner more than anything. I think the troubling aspect of the garage from a ARB standpoint is just how it relates to the cul-de-sac. How does this house feel like does it look like it's sticking an elbow out to that cul-de-sac, or is it like because the garage kind of turns away from the cul-de-sac in a way, or does it feel like it works into the cul-de-sac in some successful way? That's more the concern that I had.
So Brad and Kevin, I think it would be helpful on your resubmission that you show the footprint of the adjacent house next door, and also the footprint of the house 2 doors down to the, I guess, the west, maybe a house across the street. Also the driveway. I know Rudy Schwartz did a survey. He's got the driveway shown on this plan. I received it late yesterday afternoon, but what is submitted to me is I can't scale it, so I didn't show it to the ABR.
Sure. Am I sharing my screen? I apologize. I can't tell.
Yes, you are.
Okay, so I hear you, Harry. We'll add all those things to it. We have Mr. Novak's house on this site plan. You could see that we're in line with him. And I think this does show the relationship to the cul-de-sac a little bit better. We will put the other homes on there as well.
Okay.
Like a Google Earth view is helpful too. I mean,
yeah, no doubt. I think I
could.
Yeah, that's a good idea. And I am going to, to me, the garage doors, if you look at where the cul-de-sac kind of comes around, I don't think the neighbor is going to be, I don't think it's intrusive, but maybe we could, like when we resubmit, show that a little bit more for everybody. And we will show some landscaping there as well, because for what we're trying to accomplish, and like we want to build a beautiful home for the street as well. We really do feel like ultimately with the way the grade's going and everything else, that the garage, is probably best on that right side. But maybe we could show better pictures and have that discussion at the next meeting.
It might be helpful if you just showed like an alternate A, alternate B, so they kind of get an idea what it looks like on both sides. So
Yes.
just my suggestion.
You can see the shape of the lot. The challenge of this, you can see when you're looking at this site plan, that the left side of this, as I'm looking at the orientation, how quickly it drops back in terms of width. You see that? Right now, the porch is at the 50-foot setback. So if I flip that house, imagine flipping that plan and not taking advantage of that little pie shape on that circle. If I flip that and I have to pull that house to the right, and I have to put pull it 30 feet away from that right property line that I'm looking at on the screen, the lot becomes almost unusable.
Yeah, I think if you flip it, I think you're going to be into a zoning issue if you flip it, but we'll let you guys figure that out.
Unfortunately, I know, there's all kinds of parameters that weigh upon each when you're developing a plan, and what light and things are definite considerations. And I'm Ohio born and raised, so I completely understand the requirements. Unfortunately, this, by the shape of the lot and the angle of that property line that's coming off the cul-de-sac, that's our big challenge as far as flipping it, pulling the house over. It would almost become a house that would be long and deep. And then if you look at it from the front, you'd have a 60-foot, 50-foot house. So you would not be able to get the elegance and the beauty of what we were trying to show, as far as a house that's got presence along Bramley Court. So now our challenge is going to be, how do we present and protect that view and orient that view with working with what I've got to address the cul-de-sac. And that's where we'll have to go back and study and look at carefully.
Very good. And you shall. I move to revise and resubmit, given all the discussions that we've had, particularly wanting to see the layout of the whole end of the street. That's very important.
Thank you, Steve.
So a motion by King. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, motion by King, seconded by Naylor to revise and resubmit. Naylor,
Yes.
Childs,
Yes.
King.
Yes.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thanks for the time, everybody.
Thanks, Ed. It is a
Thank you.
tricky lot.
Thank you.
Very tricky lot.
George. All right, take care.
Bill, Steve.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Are we back to my screen share?
No screen share.
Just looking at a bunch of good looking people, that's all.
Yeah.
338 North Cleveland Street. Excessive access structure final.
Is it there now?
Yes.
Okay, thank
You
you.
might want to make it a little bigger, Harry. It's
I'm
really
getting
small.
there, yeah.
There you go.
Mhm.
Okay. So this is a resubmission from your last meeting. I think they've answered some of your questions. I think Becky can pick up on it from here.
Yep. It's a basic garage. We pulled the sides down, modified the window, lost a window, and that's it.
Any comments?
Is there some question of drainage from before? I'm trying to remember that. Or,
Yeah, we just wanted to see where the gutters and downspouts are going to.
Would they be willing to just put one window here to break up this big, long, empty wall?
No.
Okay.
Hey, being honest.
Yeah.
Can I see the site plan, please?
Becky, where was that trench drain going to drain to? It's in front of the garage.
Well, we've got to drain it back to the street. Don't we have to put it in the sanitary?
Not the trench
No.
drain. It has to go to
Yeah,
storm
you're
sewer.
right. You're right. We can go into the storm.
I think there's a ditch in front of the house. There is, I don't believe there's a storm sewer.
There's no storm or sanitary?
No, there's sanitary, but you can't take an open trench drain on the outside of a building and take it to sanitary. It's got to go to the storm sewer. And I believe there's only a ditch in front of this house. There is no storm sewer.
So can we drain it to daylight then? I mean, if that's what everything on the street is doing,
I mean, like out the back of the property.
yeah.
Yeah, we'll have to go through engineering on that. We don't like to do illicit discharges without, seeing where the water's going. I know it's a long, narrow lot, but we'd have to look at that separately.
Sure, we can,
I mean, you might be able to make the ditch out front. I don't know. I mean, but that's something you should look at before you start construction to make sure you got fall to the ditch.
We would be a little concerned about the ditch out front. Sorry, I'm Colleen Penn, one of the homeowners. My husband Jonathan's here too. We already have issues with the front of our driveway actually being on the neighbor's property. So if we're also now going to be digging ditches and such, we would have to get an easement for that.
Well, I don't know. Isn't there a ditch fronting your house right now? You have a culvert pipe underneath the driveway, correct?
There is, yeah, I guess we would have to go under the driveway. We just don't have any space to the left of our garage, our driveway.
Well, that's something that we can discuss offline. That's not, that's a more zoning issue, engineering issue for me. So I don't think it really involves the architecture review board at this time.
Okay.
yeah, but if everything on the street is kind of going to daylight, it seems to me that it would make a lot better sense to go to their expansive backyard that's got a bunch of soil to absorb that water rather than direct anything towards the street or the concrete. But that's
correct.
Just intuitive, take on it.
No, correct. But we just need to see the details on how that's going to work out. That's something our engineer is going to have to review as well. So.
Okay.
Okay. Further questions on the design? Okay. The garage is set back pretty far. Some window or two would enhance the elevation, but I'm not sure anybody's there to see it in this circumstance. Move to approve as presented with Harry to deal with the drainage issues.
Second.
Okay, motion by King, seconded by Naylor. Childs?
Yes.
King?
Yes.
Yes.
Naylor? Okay, thank you. Thank you, Becky.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, bell towers for another day, I guess.
Yes.
17 River Street.
So this is the final. This is in front of you folks a few weeks ago as well. They've been to the Board of Zoning Appeals. They did get a variance for their pergolas and setbacks and stuff like that. Now they're back in front of you for final. I'll let Rick Siegfried and Rick Duty take over from here.
They are online, so if Rick, if you could unmute and start your cameras for us, that'd be great.
Okay, unmuted and camera started. How's everyone still?
Good.
Hanging in.
Got your electricity back?
Good morning,
Rick?
everyone.
Good morning.
I
My
prefer
electricity
seeing
was
Rick on
only
the
out for 7
no.
seconds. But
Okay.
sorry, no, I'm in my office, my home office.
Okay.
We could get to the beach. So yes, as you remember, we did this about a month ago, right?
Yeah.
And everything was approved preliminarily. Everything has pretty much stayed the same. There was just one small change to it, which I could point out to you, which is on that small roof on the back. If we could get to the back drawing here.
Yeah, what
Well,
page
let me
is
take
it
the
on?
screen.
You can take over the screen if you like.
Okay.
Don't give him that power. That's scary.
Oh, it's not too bad, except I gotta somehow get to stop sharing full screen. Because I can't get to what's underneath this for some reason or another. All right, here we go. I have technical challenges last night that, here we go. 17 River.
Pay your loan.
So when this was all built, originally, this corner wasn't at 45 degrees, and then.
Hey, Rick, we're not seeing it.
Rick, do you,
Yeah, there it is.
you got it now?
Yes.
Yeah. So from up here, this corner was a little bit different of an angle. We got to rebuild it to 45 degrees to make the roof work over the top. Part of it had to do with the visual on the site from this dining place up here, which is obviously one of the hot tables, from the deck up here and then from this table. Looking out over that. So we turned this corner into a hip, and then we matched this with a hip so that we got roof continuous all the way around it. And there's an RCP, and I don't think you guys care about this stuff, but. So here you see this hip roof and then the way this corner hips out. Other than that, it is as previously approved. Here you can see the corner coming down as a hip. I know there's not another hip on the building, but other than that, we're good. We like it. We think it's cool. These have all been approved by the village engineer with respect to the hillside. I don't know when they're pouring these, but I believe it to be soon. And, you know, we would like to move on down the road. You guys like the last piece to the puzzle. This is all going to look nice up top. It's we think it's going to really enhance the building. So at that point, I guess I will leave it open to any other comments.
Yeah, I do think the front entry looks nice, and I have nothing against the pergola. I mean, architecturally, I think it's an enhancement. As long as it's not just a future room. But the one thing I was thinking about looking at these, with all that new roof, is a pretty prominent element on the back of the building. And I'm not anti-skylight, but I feel like the back of this building view across the river is kind of like Chagrin Falls front door in a way, like almost like the front view of our village, because it's such an important place. And it's not that the roof bothers me, but I guess I honestly am having some trouble with all those skylights, and whether we're going to be looking at this with all the skylights in the coming times. I mean, I'm not sure you necessarily need them for the dining experience, and to me, they're the only really discordant element, and we are going to be all staring at them, having opinions about them. I think they're a sensitive element to the town.
George, could I respond for a second if I can?
Yeah, you bet, Rick.
I'm not a big lover of skylights either. I kind of can understand your thought. I think what I was trying to do is, there are days of the year, probably in Cleveland, less than 20%, where it's a beautiful day and you love the idea of being outside. And so the purpose of them in those days was to feel more like, obviously, more outside than closed in, if you will. Whether we have enough or too many is an important question, and it's something that we should address. As the structure goes up, I intend to be there and sort of get that feel almost as we go. But when it's a beautiful sunny day, you don't want to feel like you're underneath a structure. I mean, the whole view of the falls is sensational. It's great, and we appreciate the ABR letting us do this, because obviously restaurant people are trying to extend seasons in Cleveland, Ohio. And to the extent that we are making this a year-round or more usable patio more often is the purpose. And certainly on a beautiful day in May or June, you don't want to feel like you're underneath some overhang. You'd rather be outside under an umbrella. But it's a trade-off, right? You're doing that versus a day like today where it's snowing and if we had a party downstairs and they wanted to spill out over into the to the deck and there's heaters out there, it might be okay for them, perhaps. I mean, maybe not. It depends on wind and everything else. But it's a tough call. How many, getting just the right size at the right kind. It's my hope that they wouldn't be noticeable. I mean, I know they look sort of stand out on this plan, but if they're flush with the metal seam roof and they're tinted sort of the color of the roof, maybe they're not nearly as noticeable. People don't really notice that part of it because they're pretty flat relative to the roof.
I
What
get
is the
the
height on
idea
that
that
porch?
they have. I get the idea that they have a purpose, but I think in the long, narrow part of the porch, they're honestly really not necessary. And you've got 7 of them in that deeper part. Like, I could imagine 2 larger ones in that deeper part. Maybe they're 4x4, centered, one each under a window, and I think they should relate to the windows above them more than any other thing. But if you centered two larger ones under this, you'd have 2 skylights instead of 15.
Well, you
that
have
would-
3 large windows there, doors that open up right there.
You only have an 8-foot overhang, Rick. You got plenty of light in there.
What is the height of the ceiling on that porch? Is it an open ceiling or is it a flat ceiling, and what's the height?
The ceiling is sloped, and it's I think at the narrowest it's about 8'6", Rick. Is that right?
Right.
And then your
It
depth
goes
is
up about a
about
foot
8.
and a half.
So your depth of this porch is about 8 feet,
I think it's 9,
8 or 9 feet.
9'6".
Yeah, and then you're maximizing the light because you're getting southern exposure. I know you're kind of down in, but
Well,
I agree with
there's a lot of
George that I
trees.
would rather not see skylights along that roof at all.
I understand the theory, but I've been there a lot. I mean, more or less there in its current state, and you're looking at the falls, you're looking at the river, you're looking at the falls, and straight up. I don't think it makes you feel outside the way it could if you had a few big ones over the wider area. Small skylights are like portholes.
Yeah. We went to great lengths to spend a lot of money to raise up the windows that were there and turn them into doors. I mean, that was a fairly expensive proposition. And I guess my thinking was to just get as much light into the basement windows as possible, because it still feels like a basement down there. There's low ceilings. It's not the most desirable space. I think we've improved it a lot over what was there before, but the ceilings in the basement are very low. It's not exactly the most inviting area. So we were trying to get some light into those windows. I mean, we could, if you'd like, revisit the skylights. I can try to send them back, and I send them. Well, sweet. We haven't ordered all of them. We originally were given the green light to start the patio on the wider section, and that created some issues because of the required footers below. So that's been stalled too. But I think those 6 skylights on the right are on site, or 8 skylights. If you want me to look at bigger skylights over each door, just 3 of them, 4x4s. It would require the framing plan to change, Rick, but I mean, that's easy. That's an on-site adjustment, right?
I want to back up a little bit just about the height, because the height to the bottom of this carrier beam here is only 7'5", and then we go up 7.5 inches to where this rafter sits. There's cut flat there. And at the bottom of this rafter over here, we're about 9'5" there. So it's not as tall as everybody's thinking. There's 8-foot tall doors back here. That door header, which doesn't show in this section, is kind of up in this area. So getting some light back to there at some level, I do feel is important, because this is Northeast Ohio, and most of the days are like this for 6 or 8 months a year. So getting some light back into the lower part is part of the concept of lightening and brightening this whole thing up. And you've been in there, I think you understand that that's happened.
I mean,
so
we're really nice now on that. Jack. I mean, I agree that's a trade-off. You're trying to get both but if you really want it to feel bright in the lower level and the new doors you put on, don't put a roof on it, that long thinner area, and just put a roof on the wider area. I mean, that
Northeast Ohio again, is we get as much rain as we don't get sunshine. So I guess if you had to pick a worse evil, you'd rather be sitting there and when the rain comes, not have your food get wet, as opposed to those 30 days or 45 days a year when you're sitting in the sun.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're trying to have both ends. Georgia, it's absolutely true. And I don't know that that's a bad goal in today's world. So
right.
I could see doing just one across here instead of these doubles or something like that. I think the spacing on these, well, it doesn't necessarily relate, but nothing totally relates, and that's just the building we inherited. These are where these openings.
Well, you're spacing the skylights, Rick. It's so disingenuous to say you can't space the skylights relating to the windows above. That's ridiculous.
Well, they're spaced evenly relative to each other. So when you're underneath, there's a nice even spacing to them. So I don't believe I'm being disingenuous in any way. You might have a different opinion on
what can we do?
I wouldn't.
We have 7 skylights and we're going to throw them on the roof in a pattern, and they don't relate to the windows above. What could we possibly do about that? You could
space them
have 4 skylights that do relate to the windows above, or 8. I mean, you could do a bunch of stuff about that.
Hey, folks, just let me back up. When they did a preliminary, those skylights were showing on their preliminary, and there was no comments made about that. That's all I'm going to say.
It's true as well.
That's true, but windows are not massing, and we've been thrown a lot of stuff in this. We've seen this building 5 times. Something new happens every, it's like keeps coming back.
Probably one of the most important public sight lines in the village of Chagrin, because you're standing at the Main Street Bridge and everybody's enjoying the river and they're looking down on this elevation.
Right. And yeah, if it didn't hit us before, I mean, it's a good time to hit us now, because we're going to be living with it for the next 50 years.
All right, so let's go back to your comment then, because we have looked at this a lot. And if you centered a skylight here so that it looked the way you want it to from the bridge, it would be totally off down below. And if you center them on the windows down below, it's totally off from up above. So we space them out evenly, and we've got sort of, it's not a perfectly straight up. Everything relates, but we didn't get to start from scratch, George. We have what we have, and someone beat us to the punch on these locations of these windows down below, and we're living with them. Same thing up above here. This is closer to that than there is to here. Nobody's saying anything about that. It is the way it is.
I know
over here where we had a choice, we fixed it.
I'm just saying that doesn't relate to the windows below either.
Yeah, that's my point. So we made them even, we spaced them evenly, give them their best shot at making sense themselves. Otherwise, you're going to spin this Rubik's cube until you get, okay, screw the skylights, but but we really want the light
Perfect.
underneath there, at least some
It's a
light.
good outcome.
Over here, I could totally understand doing one and getting rid of this second row here or up top and just space those differently. That's the part, if anything feels busy to me, it's this bit over here. And I'll defer how much I pontificate on that to my client, but
I don't think you should have skylights in that long row. I mean, I think they're really gonna leap out at everybody in the built form.
I don't think they have the overwhelming effect that we've discussed either.
What color is that roof going to be?
We addressed
I'm
that
sorry?
because we have the colors. I think someone in the commission asked on the preliminary meeting what color, and we originally said sort of a slate charcoal, and I think there was in the preliminary comments a desire to go a little lighter gray, and so we picked out samples of lighter grays to go with kind of the existing light building. We painted the entire building on this structure, so that shows a fairly dark color. It's not totally consistent. Even the roof has a red color. The upper roof is shingled in a sort of a reddish brick color right now. So, but you don't see much of the shingled roof. So we were thinking sort of a lighter slate, bluestone color.
yeah, it's not going to be black like this. Here's kind of the real deal we were thinking. This the rendering program. You guys know how this works. It throws a shadow out. The colors all change. But yeah,
Yeah, I think that's a nice color.
medium to. Well, again, if we could compromise here, like I get that this is kind of busy here, and maybe 3 of those come out or 4 of them come out and these get spaced in the middle. And, I don't know, we pulled one out of here and gave a different spacing.
Would you like to see them lined up with the windows below? Width's what we would prefer, or the windows above? What is your preference, George?
I don't think they're gonna jump out as much. I would say the windows above actually are close enough to the windows below that maybe you could, but I honestly think in that the long, shallower roof, there shouldn't be skylights.
We just spent so much money trying to get light into that basement. That was the reason we did it. And
I understand you.
we have tents up there now, which do not allow sides for the fire marshal, because the side, we can't even put sides up because it's not sprinklered just yet. Of course, this will be. And we were trying to get light into those basement windows, and that was the thinking behind the skylights.
Translucent awning over the whole thing instead of.
Yeah, well, that gets into insulation issues.
Part of the other rhythm, George, just to help, I don't know, we all are understanding the vision, is that these skylights fit in between the rafters, and there's space to occur evenly between the rafters at 24 inches on center, so that we don't have a bunch of extraneous framing where we get off of our 24 inches so that we can line up here, and then we've got, weirdo headers and all that stuff that we're looking up. As we're underneath looking up, we want to look up at a very clean structure. We're going to insulate this roof and run the conduit in the insulation so we don't have a bunch of conduit underneath here.
I don't
We're
think
trying
that's
to
a driver
create-
bus.
I'm hearing the question that's evolving is whether they're there at all, and we don't have to worry about framing.
Well,
It was just an attempt to get light into the basement because it gets pretty dark and depressing down there.
Understood. I mean, it makes sense. I understand where you're coming from.
Okay. 5 after 11.
You guys want to make a motion? Do you have any comments? Anyone else?
I'll make a motion just to get things going here. I would propose three skylights on the wide area, the east area, and no skylights on the long skinny area.
So then approved as noted.
As approved as amended, yes.
Second.
Joan, do you have those comments?
Yes.
Okay. Motion by King, seconded by Naylor with comments. Childs,
Yes.
Naylor,
Yes.
King.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, gentlemen.
Wait a minute. I found this exchange uncomfortable because we should have dealt with it more preliminarily. Preliminary is massing and all this kind of stuff, but we could have addressed this earlier, and I apologize for that. Which leads me to my walk around town the other day, looking at Crane's Canary Cottage and realizing the tremendous changes that were proposed. And I'm going to be speaking differently personally about the changes that were proposed. It's an idyllic building. It was a beautiful fall day and all this and stuff, but it's a very picturesque building and very much a fabric of Chagrin Falls. So continuity of this and continuity of that and making it all uniform, not important to me. The quaintness and irregularities are its beauty. And I just want to say that now because you're working on those plans, I'm sure, as we speak.
Yes, we had a planning and zoning meeting last night. We were approved and we're going to BZA next and final ABR with you. Could you be more specific so we could try to address this?
Yeah, you know, it's really hard, and it was part of today's confusion is, we're online and I know how to read plans and looking at renderings and all this stuff, but I'm looking at them on this little screen, and it really makes it hard to sometimes evaluate something. And the photographs of Crane's Canary Cottage, which I've seen for 50 years, but really looking at it again, as I just said, it's really a cute little building. And so bringing it up to snuff it's already up to snuff. I mean, it's perfect from an external view the way it is. It needs to be a better restaurant, and we're going to work with you on that. But changes to make it perfect or, to make it uniform or something like that. You were working with Jekyll's, and Jekyll's burned down, and then we created a new building. And now a new building, I guess now it is, and that's fine. But this is not a new building. This is an old building, and it's a beautiful old building. So the ship's lap siding, which we maybe going to try and save some. Well, I guess I'm saying that I like that siding, and I like the way it comes off and so forth. And changing the exterior to put in another chandelier, that's not high on my list. And that's all the comments I want to make today, because we're not looking at any plans today. I just didn't want to ambush you. I guess that's what I'm saying. I was uncomfortable with today's discussions to some degree.
Well, we saw and heard your comments about how far out to bring the gable on the front of that in order to make the bar area larger. And we brought it back on the current drawing. Is there any way to get some sort of preliminary look at before we get too far along in order to, we are in for final, and we are trying to open this restaurant sometime before next summer. And you got 6 weeks of state review and 6 weeks prepare working drawings, and so I'm just as a restaurateur trying to be pragmatic and also get open, hopefully at a time where we can do some, where we're not too busy. To open in May or June around blossom time is not a good thing for an operator because we need a little walk before we run time. And so I'm just concerned that we can't afford to push it back another 8 months in order to open in the winter of 21 or 21, 22. So
we're here twice a month for a walk-in. How about this? How about that? On the back of a cocktail napkin, just open discussion. Rick's made use of that a number of times. Hey, what do you think?
This is really late in the morning, but what if we see the next applicant, which is a final applicant, and maybe you come back in 20 minutes or something and share the screen for 5 minutes so that we do give you the best
thank you.
Feedback.
That'd be great. We'll come back.
Okay, that's a good idea.
I'm imposing on the rest of the board by saying that.
No, I appreciate it.
Well, I'm in for that. I
Well, I know you guys have
eat
been
the
there
sandwich.
all day and all night.
What about me? I got work to do.
Me too.
This is getting a little long here.
Geez, the only ones really being paid are making all the noise. How about that?
Go figure, huh?
All right, moving on to.
Thank you.
Where are we?
We'll leave the meeting and come back. Thank you.
Okay, we're going to deal with your competition down the street here. 17 East Orange Street.
So this is Batuki Restaurant. I got to get my screen back. Help. I think this is it.
Mr. McDowell, you're welcome to start your camera if you'd like.
Okay. Good morning or good afternoon.
Yes.
Good afternoon.
Christy, are you guys seeing my screen or are you still seeing us 240 Bramley Court?
No, we're seeing it.
Bramley Court.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Well, guess what? I lost all my,
Your tabs.
yeah.
There you go. There you
Got it now?
Yeah, you got it.
Yeah.
Okay. So ABR members, this is Batuki Restaurant, 17 East Orange Street. They are in front of the Board of Zoning Appeals. It was back in February of last year for a new restaurant. They got approval for this restaurant. And currently they're starting their build out and they got a little ahead of themselves. They started a patio out front and it included a retaining wall and some fencing and some lighting. And I kind of had to reel them in, slow them down, get them in front of you before they got too far along. So that's why they're in front of you. As I mentioned in my email to you earlier, they will be coming back under a different application. They want to make some exterior changes to their front door for the restaurant, but that's not part of the review for today. So with that, I will turn it over to the applicant and he can walk you through the situation.
So if we, yeah.
Just
We've got
identify yourself for the record, if you would, please.
David McDowell, I'm the general contractor. I was hired by the owners of Batuki Restaurant, and these plans were submitted by the owner of the building, Ronnie Curtis, and we were under the impression that they'd all been approved, and that's why we proceeded, and then discovered that that hadn't happened. So what we're talking about, as I understand today, is the retaining wall, the lighting, and just the general look of what we're doing out front so that it's in keeping with the building. I know that this building is the Elias Whitlock building that's used on your guidelines to historical commercial buildings. There's actually pictures of it, both front and back, on your website. And if you see what's on the screen now, you'll see the retaining wall that comes off the right side of the stairs and comes down around the patio. That wall is holding back the dirt elevation. It's about 3.5 feet tall at the tallest point. And then when you come down towards the street, when it comes around the angle, it basically meets grade. On these plans, it was shown to be, architectural landscaping stone stacked on top of each other with stone glue in between. We deemed that to be inappropriate. So we're going to put in a block wall, which is already started, and then face that with full brick that matches the building. And that brick, I don't know if you can, is this brick, which is Belden brick. It's unglazed. It is in the same colorway as the building. Previous repairs on the building, to my way of thinking, weren't done correctly. There's been doors that have been closed in that weren't, the brick wasn't keyed in. The brick wasn't the same style. So, we are committed to making it look as in keeping with the building as possible. That brick will also show up on the left and right side of the stairs, because the original plans talked about those stairs being poured concrete, which was what was there before. And, they were quite honestly pretty ugly. And we're going to do brick with stone treads leading up to the landing coming into the building. In terms of lighting, we're going to put post lights, and I think, Harry, you scrolled down to those earlier, and they're going to be at the, there's the post and there's the dome of the light, and that pretty much replicates what the light is across the street at Cuffs in front of their building, so that we're, basically replicating what's in the neighborhood and what's, appropriate in terms of the look of this historic building.
How many of those?
Where are those? Can you describe their location?
Sure. If we go back up to the sketch, we've got, come on back up a little bit, Harry. Whoops. Keep coming. We got to go back to the original site plan. Yeah, there, stop. Whoop. Okay. In the corner just to the right of the stairs will be one. At the angled arch, where you see that 15 feet meeting the 8'3", there'll be one in that corner. There'll be one in the corner closer to the street where it comes down to that 17-foot wall. Then there'll be one all the way at the far corner towards the street, one in the middle of that long wall or that long section of the patio, and then one at the corner that's basically in line with the left-hand side of the stairs, but out at the front of the patio.
I had a quick question. Do you have like any elevations of this, like section cuts to see like how high the wall is, the lights, where they're located, how this all kind of comes together? I mean, this, for me personally, plan wise, I'd like to see like, how does this work with the building and the walls and how this all goes together? That's just me.
Yeah. I don't think they have a elevation here. I have some pictures of a rendering that the architect provided to me yesterday, and I can hold that up if that gives you some sense of it. So I don't know if that you can see that at all, but that's showing the parking lot off to the side, the patio. And when you're down on the sidewalk, because there's that initial set of stairs that comes up from the sidewalk, and then it meets our new sidewalk that goes to the building. You can't even see the patio, and you'll see maybe 8-10 inches of a wall from the street. So the patio is pretty much hidden from the street.
I take issue with that. I was looking it over the other day. I thought it was a German restaurant. You were building a Berlin Wall up there. I mean, you can absolutely see that. And with 6 or 8 or however many lights, you're gonna have to be careful. Airplanes aren't gonna try and land there.
You're talking about too much light?
Well, I'm saying that the potential for that is tremendous. You're 2 doors away from the residential district, and you're building a restaurant in your front yard. I mean, that's quite a space. I'm concerned about the light, yeah, because Cuffs, you match Cuffs' light, and they've got 1. You know, so
these lights are considered, I mean, I'm open to whatever. I mean, but these lights are considered dark sky lights.
that sounds good. I'm not sure exactly what that means.
That means they
Because
only
they have a solid hood and they only shine downward. Is that what you're thinking?
correct. Yeah.
And we can look at them. I think we're going to have to, I think we really do need more information about where they are.
Okay.
And I think if you might need to give us a chance to go take a look at Cuffs and consider that, process the information that you're presenting to us now that we understand it a little better.
Yeah, I'm totally understand that. And we were caught unawares here.
How did that happen?
How that happened was I was listening to Ronnie Curtis, who said everything's already approved and just let's get going because I want to get these people open. And
That's a surprise.
yeah. And the original architect, I guess, did not go before you people, and that I was not aware of. And he said he couldn't make this meeting, and that's why I'm sitting here in front of you.
I mean, this looks like it's pretty important in front of the building. This is a beautiful building. Wouldn't you want, just even for your own sake, cut a site section through here from the street to see how all this works, put a couple people in it, and maybe do a section through here just to study it. And then you can see the lights and see I would think you'd want something like that to understand how it works and the relationships from the road to there, because it is still kind of downtown Chagrin. That's a beautiful building, and how that much lighting and how it all works and relates. I mean, I think you'd want all that to see how that is. Like, how high is it from grade to from the building to the grade, and how the relationship of the stair, like, what does this look like here? You know what I mean? Like, what's going on under here? Do you walk under here? Is there?
No, that's where the brick is going.
Okay, well, see,
At the staircase that's bricked.
Okay.
Originally, that was shown as a poured concrete staircase that was replacing, the poured concrete staircase that was there. And we said that wasn't in keeping with the building, and then said we're going to go ahead and do stone treads and brick for that staircase. The patio is already poured. The only thing that isn't poured is the upper landing above the stairs, and the stairs aren't built yet. But the patio and the sidewalk have been poured.
I think the materials you're talking about are encouraging. But there's just big picture issue, questions about this.
And I guess I just would need your guidance to tell me what you need either from the architect or me so that we can answer those big picture questions. What I am is a residential contractor, and I usually do old historic home projects. I got into this project because I know the owners of the restaurant, and so that's where my aesthetic is coming from. That's why I rejected the way the retaining wall was designed. That's why I rejected the way the stairs were designed, so that we're in keeping with the building. And I totally respect that idea. I grew up for part of my childhood on Solon Road in Bentleyville. So Chagrin Falls has, certainly been part of my past. I live in Cleveland Heights now.
Great.
I need help conveying what we need from him in terms of plans. Bill has gone into some detail. Let's tell him what he needs to show us what he wants to build.
Well, I think to build this stuff, you'd want sections through here. I mean, just to build it. And I think you'd want some sort of a section through here and a section this way, a horizontal, vertical, I would think, to see the relationships and how it looks in the walls. And so we have an understanding how it ties in with the road and everything. So I'd have a couple site sections, I would think. And then they've got to have something to build the details of how they're going to build all this stuff, right? Or is it you're saying this is already built?
These plans have some of that on it. And the left-hand side where it says, existing parking lot, that's the elevation that comes straight across onto the patio. So that because of this being a restaurant and having to be ADA, that elevation with the existing parking lot was carried straight through to the patio. And then you'll see that sidewalk that goes up to the left of the stairs, and that kind of blank space in the middle is a planter that will have shrubbery in it. And then you have the lift that goes up to there where Harry's hand is, that goes up to the landing that gets you into the building. The elevation of the whole patio is at the same elevation as the parking lot, and the stairs then bring you up to the floor level of the building, of the existing building. And what was there originally was a deteriorated concrete pad with deteriorated stairs. And that's what we're replacing with the stone and brick stairs, and then this pad, which will be all concrete, but it won't be just gray concrete. And if you want to look at the site to see what's proposed, I mean, the patio is exposed aggregate and not just troweled concrete. So it has, more of a character to it.
I think in relation to that, especially with the lift, I think a front elevation that shows those steps, the lift, the wall below the building and the front of the building, but that lift itself is potentially a structure. I'm familiar with I think some of those types of lifts. I don't know what this one looks like. I think we want to see that too.
Yeah, this is Arrow is the company, and it's basically just an open platform.
Well, it has either low walls or rails or what?
It has rails.
Yeah, when I said do a site section, I meant more or less so you could see the elevation of the building, like George is saying, in relationship to all this. And same with the side, you see, even if it's a partial side of the building, and so you understand the relationship of all the elements.
Okay.
For position.
Oh, hey, David.
Correct, yes.
So you're coming back to the ARB. What's the architect, what's his timing on this front door and stuff like that? Would he be able to get you some section drawings and the front door details and make one pass at the ABR? Maybe at the
I know we were shooting for him to be before the ABR on December 1st.
Okay.
I'll be frank, I don't have a whole lot of confidence in this architect. He was kind of foisted upon me. So I can't really speak for him. I'm basically trying to make up for him.
Sure.
Getting that feeling. I think we can work with you, David. You seem to have the right feel, but we need to know what's going to happen.
Sure.
Right.
So ABR, he's, you know, he's constructed the cinder block walls. That was under construction when I showed up. And I asked him to stop with the cinder block. He did show you some samples of some Belden brick that matches the front of the building. And I know he's concerned with the weather. Would it be acceptable if he was able to finish that wall with the brick so he can at least move on with that portion, or you want him to hold off until?
I think he should hold off with everything. He better not put his jackhammer away for the winter, as far as I'm concerned.
Okay.
I mean, this is ridiculous.
I don't think weather-wise, and I realize you're in the middle of all this.
I'm stuck in the middle, but yeah.
But I don't believe weather-wise, if we're talking again on December 1st about this, you know, you'd still have, I would hope, regardless of what's happening outside right now, some decent weather to finish up a masonry project after December 1st, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I guess my concern for the owners of the building is that we get the stairs and the upper entranceway constructed so that, you know, they have access to the building.
I guess the big question, and I mean, and it's kind of floating out there, I don't know if anyone's tackled it, is are you allowed to build a big dining patio in front of this building on this lot? Are there
very good question?
Zoning issues? They're like, can you even do this? Like, is this, you know, it's funny because it is odd to think, and I know we've got a lot of dining on the street. We're just talking to them at River Street and down there. But seems so completely different than this location. So what is the zoning? I mean, maybe you can speak to that, Harry.
George, I can weigh in on that a little bit.
Right.
So when they went in front of the Board of Zoning Appeals, and you have to excuse me what month it was. I know it was earlier in the year. It might even been the tail end of last year.
Yeah.
They did get approval for outdoor seating. The question at hand is the number of seats that are on this plan. We have to go back and check and make sure it complies with what was approved by the Board of Zoning Appeals. So there was seating on the plan for outdoor seating. BZA did
and
weigh
it was
in.
in this location.
Correct.
Okay. Yeah, the lighting plan, lighting locations, that'd be really important, just as a plan issue. And I think we'll all have more time to really walk around this, spend some time figuring, you know, getting comfortable with what's there. And obviously there's enough to see.
Yeah,
without
well,
going.
and I'd be glad to meet anybody there just to walk you through the plan if you want.
Yeah.
You know,
I hear what you're saying is that we need to have, you know, sections and elevations so that you have that on paper and know what's actually going to happen.
Exactly. And Harry will revisit the zoning issue with how many tables or what was the okay anyways.
Right. I think the frustrating part about this whole thing is when it was in front of BZA, this is more or less, they talked about the outdoor seating as being on a patio, period. And then 2 weeks ago, they start constructing this retaining wall. And I even talked to the owner of the property, He told me it was going to be a patio, a grade level patio. And next, thing you know, we're carving out the hillside, building a retaining wall, and we have no plans. So that's why we're at this
Yeah.
intersection. So.
Okay, I guess it's as simple as revise and resubmit, given all the conversation that we've had. And no, I wouldn't progress at all. The owner is not new to this town. He just thought he'd try to blow it by us evidently. And I'm sorry you're caught in the middle, David. Look
Yep.
forward to working with you.
Yeah, I will do my utmost to make it look as it belongs as well as can be.
Thank you.
Yep.
Second,
So we have a motion by King, seconded by Naylor to revise and resubmit. Naylor,
yes.
King,
Yes.
Childs.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. That completes your regular
you.
agenda. I'm not sure if we have any walk-ins or not. Just you'll let us know.
I think we do. Sorry.
Okay. Rick and Rick?
I will bring them on. Give me a moment.
Oh.
All right, we should have everyone online.
Mm-mm.
Steve?
Yes.
I think, are we waiting for Harry? What are we waiting for at this point?
Wait.
Rick Duty and Rick Ziegfeld.
Okay, they are
Ziegfeld here.
online. Rick and
Okay.
Rick, are you ready?
Take
Oh,
it.
you're muted.
And then they would have to share, maybe Rick Siegfried, can you share your screen?
So
and-
Harry, you're gonna have to unshare. Disconnect, there you go.
There we go.
Okay, got it? Oh, that's funny. Okay. My email to him didn't go through because when you started, it stopped that whole process. So Rick should be with us any minute. I wasn't really prepared for this one, but here we go anyway.
Kind of figured that.
Let's, we're going to operate on an economy of words, given that we've been at this for 3 hours, please.
Last night was only 2 hours and 10 minutes.
Yeah. And don't forget to make that payment by the 21st.
Hey, Rick, look again. I don't think it went the first time.
I'm on. They don't have me. They gotta let me.
Oh, Rick says he's on, but he's not a panelist yet.
I see him. He joined after I promoted you. Thank you. Here we go. Rick Duty, you're
Okay.
being promoted right now. Should have access.
Thanks, Katie. Thanks, Christy.
At least you didn't call her Debbie.
Okay, so.
Happened before.
So I'm going to start here before we get to look at the renderings of the front. But again, remember the part of the strategy here is to extend this bar and make it like a real bar instead of 7 or 8 seats, which is a real bar with 7 or 8 seats. But the concept is to have a bigger bar. I would remind you when this all started 2 years ago, when the original Gamekeepers concept changed, went away in all likelihood, never returned. There was a dumpster up here in this corner, right on the street. So, I mean, the moves here are generally very positive. the other thing that we're proposing over here, which we're going to look at, is there's a service entry down into there, right? It's like concrete slopes down. It's, you know, it's well kept up. It's still a service entry that we want to get rid of and have those things come around in through the back. And then these other changes in the back, I don't know how strong the feelings are there. This piece on the front here is still under consideration for a lot of different reasons. So mainly, Steve, I think you're talking about this view, right?
This view, I'm not really seeing a view here.
There you go.
You're not seeing a drawing of the,
Yeah.
Yeah,
That view, and if you took 30 feet to the right and you were looking at the turnaround and JoJo's at the same time, so
Yeah.
That bump out that's to the left of the main entry, because I did the same thing. I went and did a walk by and really took a look at this. And I feel the same way. There's some historic fabric there that really plays to the village. It's the area to the right of where it says JoJo Steaks. You're bumping that area out, correct?
Well,
right here.
No, to the
Or
right.
here.
That's being bumped out, correct?
There's
Yes.
a canopy proposed there.
Is the ABR familiar with that this whole block has just been purchased or is being purchased?
I would say not.
No.
Okay. All right. So we've been working with the Visconti family on this restaurant for probably, I don't know, 6 months, 5 months, quite some time to take over the Bull and Bird Gamekeepers and do a restaurant. And we also approached them on purchasing the inn and everything else, and that just became in our opinion beyond our ability to afford it. And so we didn't consider the purchase of the inn, but we still wanted to do a restaurant, Joe Ciccone and I, at the Bull and Bird space.
There we go.
As we've been working with Dominic Visconti on a design, the building, this entire block from the red building to the inn is being purchased by Brett Adams and some other investors in the city of Chagrin Falls. And so we will end up presumably with a new landlord here, which is fine. I mean, I've had a lot of restaurants that have changed landlords over the years, and I have no problem with that. One thing they've asked us to do, full disclosure, is omit that to the right off there. We like the idea of the trout room, which is the room behind JoJo Steaks. And I agree with you, that drawing doesn't give it justice. But if you look at it right now, you have an HVAC unit on the roof that we were trying to screen. Can we do a better job than the HVAC unit just being plain as day? Yes, there's no question that we can. I'm not sure we got there with this look, but I think at the end, we will get there. And we have been asked by Brett Adams to omit the structure to the right where the two people are standing on the patio. I'm going to propose as a counter, since we were fairly far along with the Visconti family before he got involved, to at least allow us to do some sort of patio out there where people can wait, because the trout room, which is the room behind the JoJo Steaks, is primarily a party room. The concept here that we think it's going to be, and again, it's not done and the name's not there yet, and I'm sorry about all this. It's just we haven't done all of our due diligence and work. We like the name JoJo's, but there's another JoJo's in Medina and we may not be able to use it, and I'd have to call them and contact them. But the trout room would primarily be a party room. The concept is sort of an upscale bar, if you will. So making the bar larger is really paramount in the way we do this design. We do want an active front. We don't think that awning structure, I've had several meetings with Joe and other people underneath those awnings in the summer, and it's very, very hot. It's very uncomfortable. It's not ideal space for sitting outside. It might be okay on a November day when it's, like this out, but in the summertime, you feel very closed in. It's very dark and sort of depressing in there, honestly.
Which awning are we speaking of? You mean
The awning
whole
to the
front?
left of the front door, Steve.
Okay.
The maroon.
Talking
Yeah,
about
so,
the photo of what's there.
So
Okay.
what we're trying to do here is, and you've made some comments, George, you've made comments. A lot of people have made comments. And I think we're trying to listen to those comments. One was keep the shingle roof, which we agree with. We don't want to spend the money. We should show you the fireplace that I see in this picture on the left should show on the right, because the fireplace should stay. We did remove the gable, or excuse me, the little window off to the left behind the tree, the dormer, because it's it's a window to nowhere anymore. Since the remodeling of Bull and Bird, you can't get up to the second floor. That used to be, I believe, the men's room up there, and now the men's room's on the ground floor. There's no way to get up.
Never anything behind it.
Yeah, and so there's no second floor in this restaurant anymore, which is a good thing with 88 code. We don't think that access to the basement on the right was very appealing. We didn't think it really did much to the corner, to the visibility of the entrance, and so we did think that taking the same paneled railing that you see there and moving it across on a patio and doing it on the right with a roof structure would be nice. There was a comment last time about the windows being sort of warehousey, and we agreed with you, and we went to a more of 2 double hung windows in the main gable coming out on the front. There was a question that we were coming out too far with the gable before, and we brought it back as a compromise. I agree with you. I don't particularly like the JoJo's Steak. I don't like the name right now. I don't like the way, but the purpose of that was to hide that HVAC unit that you see in the photo. And I think we can improve upon it. I don't know if you can go to the picture, Rick.
Right, but just for reference, in the previous submittal, we had the gable out front here. And you guys were kind of split on that. Some were like, yeah, I don't know. Bill liked it out there because it's consistent with a lot of other things on the street and all around town. It's currently back here. So we thought we came up with a pretty reasonable compromise, setting it back, lining it up with this column down below, gave us a nice form for the roof. So that was one of the things that we did differently this time around to sort of like work in conjunction with you guys to come up with a solution that makes everybody happy. So here's the photo.
You have some contemporary details covering old details, cable fencing, metal roof, things like that really changed the feel quite a bit.
Well,
I mean, that's been around a long time, and the cable rail actually lets you see through. You notice we've left all the, you guys liked this big siding here that we were proposing to not have, and it's kind of, this is pretty, there's a lot going on here, right? You got the little 4-inch boards, you got the door, you got this, and the big wide paneling. So we wanted to make it a little more cohesive. So we use that wider paneling everywhere, and this cable rail actually does a better job than anything going away and letting you see that. So
the cable rail was
simply
a way to make the railing up to code, because I think the inner, that side railing from the inside is like 18 inches high, which obviously is not high enough for code. And so whatever we do there, we want it to be as nondescript and non-noticeable. We shouldn't even maybe have the side or the vertical rails there if we don't need them, Rick. And they should be dark and match the windows. Just the purpose of it is, you can see the person standing to the right. The existing solid wood railing only comes up to maybe their knee or right above their knee, and that's obviously not code. And so we don't want it to feel like a railing. We wanted it to go away. If you have a different recommendation on that, we certainly.
I'm not bothered by the newer elements of your design. In echoing what Steve started bringing up before, and I think it's really just, I think I said this the first time, and I was probably in the minority. I think that that historic facade should just stay. I personally think that little dormer should stay, and I think the JoJo's, that block with its flush siding, I'd like to be able to keep that as is too.
And the pilasters
to the bottom of the existing windows would be ideal. Maybe you put a flat roof over that area. Maybe that area becomes your patio instead of the other, and you raise it up. I don't know. I mean, but I think it's more about preserving the actual historic elements than making a more perfect element that's new, or a nicer element that's new. I mean, it's more the actual history, I think, is really kind of compelling in this building.
We could leave the dormer. I don't think that's an issue. The issue that we were trying to create also was that awning is quite low. I don't know what the height of that awning is from the inside, but it feels very closed up.
You've got a little sloping roof, then you have flat roof, right?
Yeah.
That's flat roof anyway. You're dealing with flat roof. Yeah.
It's the same as the awning, but it's higher. It's a 1.5 feet higher because it feels so darn closed in. If you came in there and sat in there and under that awning, you'd see this is terrible. If you're proposing for us to change it from a metal roof to a flat roof.
No, I'm only talking about the small portion of it in front of JoJo's Steaks sign.
Okay.
I'm just saying it'd be great to preserve as much of that little facade as possible, and then maybe anything you do to screen up above is more of an added element, screen or something. But yeah, I mean, I was just saying, this is brainstorming. This is just a walk in. But like, if that little piece if there is a roof net and another terrace there and more seating, which seems like a lot to me, but I know you've gotten the variances for it and everything. But if there is, maybe there's a way to roof that just straight flat or make it different so that it sits below the windows, or just preserves as much of that little facade as possible.
Yes.
Well, but to discuss this little facade, because it has its good parts and its bad parts. So I'm guessing you like the scale of the windows and the pilasters and all that, but we could probably all agree it'd be nice to screen this unit a little bit, right? So currently you can see where this roof comes across there, and then where we're proposing, it's up quite a bit.
Yeah, you could
you still see a little bit of it up there, probably. Well, that's what this thing does. This facade just comes up. Because in the process, we get rid of all this oil canning aluminum, which I got to assume that historically it's okay to get rid of that, right?
Probably.
And the outriggers, I mean, nobody's in love on our side of this thing with these outriggers. They're gone from most of the rest of the building already. They don't really serve any function except to cast these little shadows down through here. And then down below here, I personally, I can't find any saving grace down here. There's nothing here that I want, historically, that I think has either all that old or makes all that much sense. So
I mean, if you
when
did
we
a
ran
stone
this roof all the way
patio,
across,
if you did a stone patio with no roof, perfect, and just got rid of that entrance. I
well,
mean,
it's probably not going to be stone. I don't know that it would be stone just because of the, you know, there's a pretty big hole down here or something. But again, part of this was an attempt to kind of bring some cohesiveness to this pretty jumbled up area. And I know it's been there a long time, which makes it historical. But if I look around Chagrin at the things that are historical, this composition isn't one that I would think I would find in a history book. I mean, we can love it because it's old and it's been there, but architecturally, there's not much to lend itself.
I think it could fall into the picturesque.
It's in the history
You can
books.
say that, but it's picturesque. It actually is picturesque.
And I
Well,
think
smiles at me with a really silly grin.
if you could
See that
continue
smile you got?
to put attention towards that shiplap siding that continues on the north elevation. There was one drawing you put up that showed that side of the building that was popped through with window openings.
Rendering from the
Right, in
turnaround.
this class,
Yeah,
yeah, this is from the north side, and just so you know, that this
yeah.
glass you see here, that's actually the glass that's back here. There's no glass on this side.
No,
This
I'm
is all open. There's
trying
no
to get
glass
towards the in a little more
here.
on that north
It's all the way back
elevation,
there.
tucked in on the circle, on the half circle.
Right.
And right,
Just pay attention to the shiplap there and kind of making that whole part of the composition, keep it intact.
So Wendy, we like that so much, we read your mind and did that. That shiplap, that wide siding already wraps
Okay.
around the corner here.
Yeah, what's with the brick there?
So yes, we agree. The stone or the
No, the
brick?
brick.
It's probably existing. I don't see it in my photos. Let me see. I have a better angle of that. And I don't think, see, there's brick around this building. See it in there?
Don't see it, Rick.
There's a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
Part of my point. There's some brick here.
Oh,
So,
okay.
you know, we're,
this cornerstone now, yeah.
It would be nice to have the masonry, that the pillar right beside the service entrance, that stone and that mortar
Oh,
treatment
there it is.
would be copied other places, because stone, you know, that's just.
We can match that
head
stone.
cam
We can
stone
use,
there,
we'll
but-
reuse what we have there
Yeah.
and we'll match it if
Mhm.
need be. I mean,
That
it's
would be great.
possible.
That would be great,
I
because
think
the
you have
rounded
to-
stone, yeah,
You have the parameters of what we're looking at.
yeah.
And I agree with
for
Steve.
this stuff.
We
You're
didn't
talking about
need
this rubble stone here?
He's talking about the columns, the stone that's on the columns, right, Steve?
the stone piers.
Oh, this
That-
stuff. Yeah,
That pillar right
yeah,
there,
sure.
Yeah.
that treatment, that stone, that mortar joint, that striking, you know, that's so different than the
Yeah.
CAD/CAM stone over, you know, that we're looking at in the other renderings.
And, well, it's certainly the intent here is to match that.
Okay. I think I'm glad we stuck it out here. I think you've gotten input. Do you have any specific questions?
I mean, what's your and Wendy's and Bill's thinking at this point on extending that gable forward at all?
We
Yes.
would still
Yes.
like
I'm
to
asking the board.
extend it somewhat, you know. I was thinking of your comment, Steve, about you love the cottage look. And I'm thinking to myself, as a restaurant guy, name a cottage that works as a restaurant. And I'm thinking to myself, because I can't think of any. And
Well, you could have gamekeepers run properly.
well, you got to remember
failed.
when Gamekeepers was
Yeah.
Because we loved
successful
it.
in its day, it had a completely different competitive set than what exists today. And I came to the ABR over with the old Rain Tree restaurant because I thought, my office was above there, and I walked up there for 20 years saying, if you went out on the patio and did that patio on the far side, you might have a neat restaurant. And ultimately, I ruled out that opportunity because the restaurant business has gotten so competitive and it's changed so much in the last 5 to 10, 15 years that if you go forward with a little bit of a little cottage look, as an example, I think you're struggling. You got to be careful. Obviously, bars help us make money. They help us make our rent payments and our payments, and so a little larger bar here that's more upscale was the concept. And without that, I don't think I'm going to go forward on the project personally. I just feel that that's that important to the success of the business. So
I don't think that you should equate extension of a 2-story space above the bar forward 10 feet or not with the bar itself. I mean, you can have a bar that has a partial 2-height space and lower space, and some people like to be under the 2-height space, and some people might like to be under the lower area.
So that's exactly why I brought this up, to delineate that. Currently, that gable's back here, right? Somewhere right around there. And we're pulling it out, and it's like 6 or 7 feet, and lining it up with this column so that it comes across. And there'll be a structural transfer here, but essentially this now defines the high ceiling, and it's homogeneous, and this will all feel unified as a space. And then the dining area wraps around it. If you got to have a bar seat under a low ceiling, you'll have 3 opportunities. But it was really to get, again, we want that window up here that faces east. So while this restaurant's open, there's no direct sunlight coming through here, but that's why we've been kind of looking at the size of that. We've made it smaller, and I like it better as a double hung up there in a pair. We want this space to feel homogeneous and not have kind of half in, half out, like I'm not sure who I really am. Am I tall? Am I short? This is going to feel ultimately way better on the inside. And I think that from the outside, once it's built, you come back in here and we'll all remember, because we've been involved in these conversations, but whether this gable's here or here, I think it's going to
look about every historic house in the town. Just tear the whole town down and rebuild it a little different.
No, nobody's saying that at all.
That's what you're saying, Rick.
How many feet forward are you proposing on that
About
gable?
5, 6.
It's either the old or the new. I mean, it's either there or it's a recreation. That's the different things.
We've all added on historical buildings and not destroyed the fabric of that building, and mirrored what was there and mimicked or matched what we thought was important.
Well, I've never added on to the front of a house and recreated the front in front of the house and said, hey, that's fine. That's historically okay. No, I haven't done that.
So you haven't gotten there yet then.
There was a brilliant architect who took a car dealership and made it into a kind of a cottage-like restaurant. It's called M. It's across the street. That guy was a brilliant man. It's a very successful cottage restaurant.
You're speaking to
You
him.
think that's cottage? I
Well,
disagree.
you know what
That's
I mean.
all one big.
Well, it's
open
not
space.
Westlake, that's for sure, you know.
You get to walk in there and see who's
No, it's
there, and
not
what's
Westlake.
going on.
Yeah, inside it's what you're looking for, I assume, and I think you should have it.
Well, that's sort of a deconstruct of his building, and we did modify that gable on the front quite a bit in the process. You remember, between the car dealership.
That was the old
and
ski
then
house,
it was-
Rick. That old ski house was
Yes.
like garbage.
Ski
No,
house
it-
was a
it was
car
a-
dealership.
It was a car dealership initially.
Was a car
Or-
Yeah, yeah.
Used
Well-
to be a gas station.
It was not the
There
Canary
was a gas station and a
was
repair
not
shop,
Crane's
and they sold.
Canary.
That's
they did
true.
a little bit of
That's
everything.
true. Well, I'm saying that
And they
you
left.
could
the
make money in the
tank there,
cottage
our
restaurant.
parking lot.
That's my point.
All right.
Right.
Right. So if we given enough feedback for
Yeah,
today?
that's-
I think we have. And I have this email from the mayor here. It says, a decree, it says, whereas on this date, November 17th, certain individuals kept the meeting running for well over 3 hours. They shall award the participants with a free lunch in the future.
I have no problem with that.
Okay.
You're all welcome to
that,
come right
Mayor.
now or anytime.
That may
and I
be
will
an
buy
issue.
you lunch. Yeah,
We need
that's-
Dale on the line.
Okay.
That's absolutely, I'd be glad to do that.
Okay, there we go. A little graph right here in
One at a
River
time.
City. All right.
All right.
Thanks,
I think that
guys.
brings us to
Thank
a
you.
good place.
Our
Thank you.
meeting, adjourn your meeting.
This meeting is adjourned.
Have a good day.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Stop sharing.
God bless Joan
All right,
for doing the
thank you.
minutes.
Thank you.
All right.
Right.
Goodbye.
Thank you,
everybody.
Christy, for putting
Bye.
up with
Have a
all
good
this.
one.
My
Very
pleasure.
fun.
Happy
All right.
Thanksgiving.
Lot
Happy
accomplished.
Thanksgiving.